following NBC Sports program is brought to you in living color.
Welcome to NASCAR on NBC, live from Darlington Raceway in South Carolina. It's the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series in one of its crown jewel events, the Bojangles Southern 500. Since 1950, this track has challenged the sport's great drivers and helped build the sport's great history. Tonight, that history comes alive as stock car racing's legends are honored by the stars of today. Get ready to cruise down memory lane at more than 180 miles per hour. It's Throwback Weekend at Darlington. Welcome to Countdown to Green, served by Sonic. Hello, everyone. Alongside Steve Letarte, Jeff Burton, I'm Rick Allen, and as you can see, it's Throwback Weekend once again. Now, Jeff, we come to a racetrack that has so much history. What stands out for you?
Well, the tradition of this racetrack, and what a great place to have this Throwback Weekend. You know, this racetrack was built almost 10 years before Daytona. We talk about the Daytona 500. Well, guess what? The Southern 500 is huge, and what a great place to celebrate the past of this sport, but not only this sport, of the great drivers that won this race.
Well, and the history and the tradition don't stop at the racetrack. It's also in the event. The Southern 500 has been around for years, one of the original crown jewels of NASCAR. This being the 67th running, it'll be interesting to see who can win tonight. 20 Southern 500 champions, Rick, have gone on to win the championship.
By the way, both of your threads are groovy, guys. I mean, you guys did a great job here. Now, serious note, the tropical storm went through on Friday. That meant that the qualifying was canceled, so the field's set by points. We have 2 races to go before the chase. 4 drivers, 3 spots to get into the chase. Things are getting pretty intense.
Yeah, they're getting very intense. And Ryan Newman, you can see Ryan Newman, he is 15 points out right now, so he has some ground he has to make up. But guess what? He might be at the fastest car of the 4 people he's racing, and they're all starting next to each other because of qualifying getting rained out. So the second the green flag drops in this race, they're going to be going after it.
I think it's the story of 2 young veterans, Chase Elliott and Austin Dillon, going against 2 wily veterans in Jamie McMurray and Ryan Newman. Will the young guys be able to control themselves? Will the old guys, the veterans, be able to control their temper and their patience around the Lady in Black, one of the most difficult racetracks we race on?
A lot of storylines will continue to follow on this Throwback Weekend. I'm going to throw it down to the 1981 Kalamazoo Central High School graduate, Dave Burns.
Very nice, Rick. Hey, back in 1979, I guess I was in high school, but America was seeing the first live flag-to-flag coverage of the Daytona 500. And at the end, they saw a fight on the backstretch between Yarborough and Ellison. And while that was happening, Richard Petty was going to victory lane for the 8th time in the Great American Race. Tonight, Eric Almirola celebrates that victory with this paint scheme on the famous 43. Mike Massaro?
Well, Dave, Tony Stewart has never won at Darlington, but tonight, Carl Edwards is going to try to get at least one of his paint schemes there. In a tribute to Stewart and his years at Joe Gibbs Racing, they painted his car almost like a replica of Tony Stewart's 1999 rookie season. While at Joe Gibbs Racing, Stewart won 33 times and 2 championships. A win tonight with this paint scheme would be extra special for Carl Edwards' crew chief Dave Rogers as well. Rogers, after all, was an engineer on Tony Stewart's team back in 1999. Kelly?
Mike, when you think of icons in this sport, you need look no further than Wood Brothers Racing and David Pearson. This beauty will be driven by Ryan Blaney today, but it was the Hall of Famer Pearson who got 10 victories in this car back in 1976, including the Triple Crown, the Daytona 500, the Coke 600, and of course, the Southern 500 here at Darlington. No detail spared, from the helmet color to the 5 sticks of spearmint Wrigley's gum that Pearson liked to have, one for every 100 miles of this race, and a spare one for victory lane when he got a kiss. Miss Southern 500, the beauty queen, Ryan Blaney, needs to get it to victory lane today to have his shot at the chase. Marty?
Kelly, in the garage area, conventional wisdom is that Tony Stewart has won the battle of the throwback paint schemes. This is Bobby Allison's scheme. Such a cool looking car with the gold wheels. The crew even has uniforms that match Tony's. And check out the other crew uniforms they've been wearing all weekend. The Coca-Cola pants. You got to love that, the old school look. But here's the coolest thing that Tony Stewart's excited about. Just happened moments ago. He got his helmet for tonight's race signed by Bobby Allison. He's been giving away helmets or collecting helmets to give away all year long. He told me moments ago, this one is going nowhere. I'm keeping this one for the rest of my life. Rick, a lot of cool schemes, a lot of cool themes down here on pit road.
Absolutely. Jeff, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I really do. Cale Yarborough's paint scheme on the 4-car of Kevin Harvick. That's my favorite. Cale Yarborough won 5 Southern 500s from nearby Timminsville, South Carolina. He was the guy I pulled for when I was a kid, so I like this paint scheme.
Absolutely impressive. The paint schemes and all the teams that have gone all in for this throwback weekend. Now let's go trackside for pre-race ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask that you please rise and remove your hats as the South Carolina Air National Guard Honor Guard from McEntire Joint National Guard Base presents our nation's colors. The NASCAR family mourns the loss of Betty Jane France, who passed away earlier this week. Her love, compassion, and leadership impacted millions of lives through her tireless work, including with the NASCAR Foundation. Our thoughts and prayers are with the France family and the many lives she touched through the years. Please join us as we observe a moment of silence. Please remain standing as Mr. Darlington Raceway, Harold King, offers our invocation.
Let us pray. Eternal Heavenly Father, thou who art the ruler of this great universe, Lord of lords and King of kings, we beseech this moment to bless this wonderful group, wonderful congregation that comes to share in this time of fellowship and then to support their favorite driver. Well, Father, we pray that as these drivers approach the start and finish line, Father, we pray now that you will minister to them. Grant unto them safety, Father. We pray that you will grant unto their families comfort. And we pray that you'll take care of their team crew and cause them, Father, to give wisdom to the driver. Father, as we enjoy this beautiful day in this great historical place, a place that had that France and Brazelton had the vision. Today we enjoy the fruits of their labor. So Father, today we ask your blessings to be upon their memories. Now, Father, as we enjoy all of this, let us be mindful now of the armed forces, those precious people that are there, out there, scattered around the world. They're doing everything they can to save that great symbol that we love to call the American flag. Father, it's our joy now to recognize those that are here that served in the service. Father, we thank you now for the fellowship that we enjoyed. And now, Father, we pray that as we leave this place, that the power and the presence of the Holy Spirit shall abide with each of them. And now, Father, we love you, we praise you. It's in the name of Jesus that we offer this prayer. Amen.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome America's most reliable big brother, Greg. From the Brady Bunch, Barry Williams.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You know it's a throwback weekend when Greg Brady goes into full Johnny Bravo mode for the national anthem. When we come back, they'll fire the engines.
Everybody ready, set, go. Rev it up and let's roll. There's a party in the fast lane. Got my hands on the wheel and I'm flying. Heartbeat loud as the thunder rolls. Riding in on the stampede of lightning. I'm bringing back the sunshine. Bringing back the sunshine. Baby, it's about time. Oh, bring it back. Oh, yeah.
Welcome back to Darlington Raceway in Darlington, South Carolina for the Bojangles Southern 500. Let's go back trackside to Dave Burns.
Back in the 1960s, Rick, Smokey Yunick's car was driven by many famous drivers: Baker, Turner, Rutherford, and Andretti. So it's only fitting that tonight a Mears adds his name to the list. Casey Mears will drive the Smokey Yunick Tribute, number 13, tonight. Mike?
Meanwhile, Greg Biffle is paying tribute to 1992 Cup Series champion Alan Kulwicki with his Hooters paint scheme. And like Kulwicki back in the day, he's relettered the front of the bumper. Underbird, signifying his underdog status today. Biffle needs a win if he's going to qualify for the chase. Kelly?
Mike Kyle Busch has one of my favorite throwback schemes. Why? Because it's a tribute to our own Dale Jarrett, who took this car to victory lane at the Daytona 500 back in 1993. It was also Joe Gibb Racing's first ever Cup win. Kyle Busch starts 6th, Marty.
Kelly Yarborough is from Timmonsville, South Carolina, about 15 miles from the Darlington Raceway. Tonight, Kevin Harvick will drive in his honor with a Busch car and number 4, hoping to take those gold wheels to victory lane this afternoon. It's time to get the engines cranked up for the Southern 500.
And now, for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your Grand Marshals 2017 NASCAR Hall of Fame inductees, Mark Martin, Rick Hendrick, Richard Childress, accompanied by CEO of Bojangles, Clifton Rutledge.
Drivers, start your engines.
You got it, buddy? Yes, sir. 1, 2, 3. Get fired up. 42 in a second. Fired up at your will, buddy.
The engines are fired up. The Pointer Sisters are letting us know we are so excited for the green flag to fly in just a moment.
For over 60 years, STP has been developing products to help cars run at their peak performance. To get the inside track on NASCAR racing, go to NBCSports.com/Inside NASCAR.
Darlington Raceway. For more than 65 years, this is where the greatest NASCAR drivers have faced some of their greatest tests.
Darlington is called a driver's track. Its mile and 3/8 is one of the most difficult to drive.
And tonight, this is where NASCAR goes back in time.
David Pearson, his second victory in a row in the Southern 500.
It's a throwback weekend, a chance to celebrate the legends that built the sport.
Winning this 5th one is just absolutely fantastic.
For old race fans to remember when, and for newcomers to learn. And at the center of it all, 500 grueling miles around one of the toughest tracks there is.
On this weekend, the greatest test comes from the racetrack.
Tonight, NASCAR past and present race side by side in the Southern 500.
Welcome back to Darlington Raceway. Many of racing's legends are here on site with us, including Cale Yarborough. He is driving the pace car tonight. Cale Yarborough just had the garage named after him this weekend. Class of 2012. being the leader of the cars coming off of pit road. And let's take a look at the Mobil 1 starting grid up front. Because of points, qualifying was rained out on Friday. The starting grid based on points. Kevin Harvick, he won the 2014 Southern 500. Brad Keselowski, he is driving the Penske car that throws all the way back to Bobby Allison. Penske has one Southern 500 win back in 1975.
Yeah, just behind them in row 2, we have Carl Edwards, who won this race last year, starting next to Kurt Busch, who surprisingly is looking for his first Darlington win.
In row 3, we have 26-year-old Joey Logano starting next to Kyle Busch, who won the Southern 500 back in 2008.
In row 4, Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. Denny Hamlin won the 2010 Southern 500.
In row 5, we have a pair of Southern 500 winners, Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth.
In row 6, we have 2 Chase bubble drivers, Chase Elliott and Austin Dillon, both looking to protect points this evening.
In row 7, the Chase cutoff line goes right between these 2 drivers, Jamie McMurray and Ryan Newman.
In row 8, we have a 6-time Southern 500 winner, Jeff Gordon, starting next to Kyle Larson, who got his very first win last week.
Back in row 9, it's Tony Stewart making his final Southern 500 start. He's never won at Darlington. But Jeff, let's see if we can talk to him now as he's riding around for his pace laps.
Hey Tony, it's Jeff up in the NBC booth. You with us?
Yes, sir.
Well, you're sporting the Bobby Allison paint scheme tonight. Tell us what it's like to represent a legend like that.
It's a huge honor. I mean, this paint scheme was from the Darlington Southern 500 in 1971. So the cool thing is I was only 4 months old. The not cool part is that there's 2 other paint schemes in this field that I actually drove. So it's such a cool weekend, though. I'm excited about it for sure.
Tell us what it would mean to win the Southern 500.
Well, this race is one of 2 races and 2 tracks that I've not won in the Cup Series at. So aside from the fact that you just want to win at every place you go to, I mean, the Southern 500 is one of our crown jewel events for this series. So it means a lot. I mean, this is where the history of our sport. I mean, this is where the roots are right here. So this is a place you definitely want to win at.
Tony, thank you for taking time with us tonight. Good luck.
Thanks, friend. We'll do what we can.
Always great to hear from the competitors right before they're about to take to the track and take on this mile and a third racetrack. We're going to ride along with a few different drivers, one of those being Clint Boyer. He has the 5-hour Energy in-car camera and will start 27. The 43 of Eric Almirola with the STP onboard camera starts 26th this evening. Ryan Blaney with the Ford in-car camera starts in row 10 in the 20th position. Just heard from Tony Stewart. He has the Coca-Cola in-car camera and will start 17th. Jeff Gordon driving the 88 tonight has the Nationwide onboard camera and will start 15th. Chase Elliott, who took over for Jeff Gordon, driving the number 24, has the Sprint onboard camera and will start 11th. Martin Truex Jr. has the Toyota in-car camera and will start in row 4 in that 8th position. And up front, because of points, Kevin Harvick will start first and has the Busch Beer onboard camera. Tonight's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods, and we will be able to take a bird's eye view of this egg-shaped mile and a third historic racetrack. And with more on the Darlington Raceway, let's take a look at tonight's GE track facts. 367 laps, a long race, 500 miles. Pit road speed is 45 miles per hour. It's difficult to get onto, and the fuel window 65 to 68 laps, Steve, and the tires wear out quick here.
They do wear out quick. While I believe those Goodyear tires can last 65 to 68 laps, the drivers aren't going to want them to last that long because they lose grip and lose grip quickly. These drivers will be screaming for tires. The crew chiefs, I'm sure, will be calling down pit road before those numbers.
And we want to take a look at most wins by an active driver presented by Sprint. That goes to Jeff Gordon. He has 7 wins at Darlington, most among the active drivers. Sprint's network reliability now within 1% of Verizon. Switch today and save 50% on most Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile rates. Visit a Sprint store or sprint.com/network today. Once again, it was announced earlier, Dale Earnhardt Jr. would not race for the remainder of the 2016 season. He was actually here and addressed the media in the media center today. It was a little bit of a somber mood when everyone was able to be seated in front of Dale Earnhardt Jr. after they had heard that news.
And this paint scheme was the paint scheme Dale Jr. wanted. He loved this paint scheme as a kid. We had to bring this to Darlington. He was looking forward to it.
A couple cars actually going to the back because of unapproved adjustments. One of those is the 31, Steve.
Yeah, we mentioned at the top of the show the points battle. Ryan Newman is in for that chase bubble spot. Well, the 31 and the 27 will be going to the back of the field for unapproved adjustments, and the 23 also to the back of the field for an engine change.
Take a look at the chase standings after 24 races. Just 2 to go before the playoffs. The chase, and you see right now 4 drivers fighting for 3 positions.
Yeah, this having to go to the back is a big penalty at this racetrack. It's very difficult to pass. As you mentioned, Steve, the tires wear out quickly. You want to be aggressive. You got to make up spots. But you know, the leader's going to be coming. Ryan's going to have to go to keep from getting lapped if we get a long run here to start. So this puts a lot of pressure on that team right from the start.
And one of the interesting things, because the field was set, as we get a look again at Cale Yarborough, because the field is set by points, that puts some of the faster cars a little bit further back in this field.
And Rick, this race is starting an hour earlier than in the past. And look right here, the sun, the vision getting into turn 3. We already talk about how difficult this track is. Now, one more thing these drivers are going to have to fight as they climb the banking into turn 3 is that sun. It doesn't set until 7:41 this evening.
And you go from bright sun to immediate shade. So imagine your eyes adjusting when you walk outside when it's really bright, or walk inside. These drivers are going to have to deal with this at 185 miles per hour. So very difficult to see the groove in a perfect situation.
Great crowd on hand, all on their feet. The 67th running of the Southern 500's underway. Kevin Harvick with a great start, jumps out in front of Brad Keselowski. Harvick in the number 4, Keselowski in the number 2. It is a white paint scheme for Brad Keselowski.
And you instantly see why this track is so difficult as the drivers try to, right there, a little contact between the 1 of Jamie McMurray and it looks like the 14 of Tony Stewart. You see how difficult and narrow this track is already as they try to get single file going through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's very difficult getting off turn 2 side by side. Jamie McMurray decides, hey, let me just fall behind. It's too early for this at Darlington. Too wide on the X of these corners is tight.
And Rick, we're going to mention these different paint schemes all night long. The different colors right there, like the yellow and blue of the 48. Some different colors for him. The 11 of Denny Hamlin and the white and red Sport Clips car. That's not just for us and the viewers, but think about the drivers. Think about the spotters. They're going to have to relearn their competitors as they see them throughout the evening.
We mentioned already single file. Jeff, where's the preferred line at Darlington?
Well, right now I think the preferred line in 1 and 2 is going to be right against the wall for sure. And 3 and 4, you can see already different opinions. Jimmy Johnson on the bottom, the 11 car Denny Hamlin on the top. So I think that groove's going to move around a great deal. Typically on new tires around the bottom in 3 and 4, and then the line will move up.
Rick, I feel like I'm watching a replay of races from 3 different eras as I look out here and see all the different paint schemes.
One of the great things about this broadcast is in just a few moments we'll be bringing in Ken Squire, Ned Jarrett, and Dale Jarrett, so you will be able to not only see and visually get thrown back a few years, but you also audio-wise will be able to hear some of the greats of this sport. Right now, great racing here. Jamie McMurray on the outside of the 21 of Ryan Blaney. McMurray in the number 1. That paint scheme throwing back to when Bill Elliott drove and had the McDonald's Mac Tonight paint scheme. And right behind him, the iconic number 21 from the Wood Brothers.
Looks like McMurray's struggling a little bit. Tony Stewart did ultimately get by him, and now the pressure is on from the behind. So again, one of those guys we talked about in the chase, needing to have a good run, having to struggle early to start.
So as we go down through 1 and 2, you see how difficult this area of the racetrack is to pass. The 21 is going to try to be patient, try to work underneath the 1 of Jamie McMurray, but you see there's just not enough room. And then look at the sun. We discussed it. All the way down the backstretch, almost blind for these drivers trying to judge that entry speed into the difficult turn 3, and then you enter into the shade.
Immediate switch from sun to shade for the drivers as they fight their way through 3 and 4. Marty.
Well, Rick, it's a good thing Kevin Harvick started first. He's out front leading the race right now because, as you mentioned, that sunset is going to be a bear. Here's what Kevin said before the race.
The sun's going to be in our eyes for a while. Yeah, for some of it last year, I remember seeing you had your hand up in front of your shield going down the back straightaway. It was pretty bad. I'm just not used to running it. I guess I should have put that shield visor on there.
And with the earlier start this year, it's going to play havoc on how the car handles on the racetrack. And as you see, riding down the backstretch right now with Kevin Harvick, that sunset, he said, is not bad right now, but in about 30 minutes, it's going to be worse. As we rode on board with Ryan Blaney earlier, you can see he had a little visor he can pop down. Kevin Harvick does not have that. Jeff, that's a tough thing to deal with as a driver, isn't it?
It really is, and it's something you really need to think about before the race. Knowing the race is going to start an hour early, that's something that the team should have reminded Kevin of. They should have had a little bit of a plan because it is very difficult getting into turn 3. Listen, when you drive down there and the sun's not in your eyes, the groove's not defined. There's no lines on the racetrack down there, at least that you can see, so it's even harder right now.
A great battle building right here between the 34 and the 31. The reason being is because the 34 is in the top 30 in points, the 31 has now been moved outside the top 16 in points, and you see a on-track battle between the two. The 31 of Ryan Newman just went by the 34 of Chris Buescher.
And that's a good recovery for Ryan Newman. We documented had to go to the back of the field to start this race, already up 10 positions.
And talking to Luke Lambert before the race, guys, they were very concerned with where they are right now in relation to that chase cutoff. Remember, the last couple of years, they've had a bit of a cushion. They haven't been in this position. So he said, Luke Lambert did, that they need to be more aggressive. As for starting at the back of the field, the team could not give me any answers as to the reasons why there were unapproved adjustments. I got the impression they weren't completely clear themselves and weren't too happy with the ruling.
Great battle for 7th. The 48. Jimmy Johnson a little bit loose coming out of the turn as Martin Truex Jr. just in front of him.
These two cars, they've worked their way to the top of the racetrack in 3 and 4. You can see Jimmy Johnson right against the wall. See how close he is to the wall. That's the preferred line. If you're going to run the top, you have to commit to the very top. You can't just kind of run the top. If you're going to make lap time, you have to be right against that wall.
Well, and if you're going to commit to a paint scheme, Jimmy Johnson has done it. That's Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s rookie paint scheme. And oh, by the way, the Silver Fox won the Southern 500 in that paint scheme in 1979.
I would group Jimmy Johnson into the word of saying legends have driven this car, and he's already a legend, a 6-time champion. Jimmy Johnson fighting for positions, but it's Kevin Harvick who's driving out front. You can watch every Sprint Cup Series race with the NBC Sports app. Get closer with additional camera angles, driver stats, and track information. It's available on mobile, tablet, and connected TVs. Download the app and find out more at NBCSports.com/live. Riding along with Clint Bowyer, and Clint Bowyer's number 15, a throwback to the 72 of Benny Parsons, who won the championship in 1973.
Benny was a champion in our sport as a driver, but also served the sport so well in talking, telling the story about the sport, commentating. Just cannot, so many races he called that I watched as a kid was just great. He did a great job.
One of the greatest ambassadors of the sport ever, and also a 2017 Hall of Fame inductee. Very, very deserving.
As we ride on board with Clint Bowyer and you see a car go by, and when you look at this racetrack, there are cars everywhere. When we talk about a speedway or a high-speed intermediate track, we talk about 1.5 mile tracks. This is only 1.3 miles, and while that doesn't seem like much, 40 cars spread around this track. There's nowhere for anyone to hide. There's traffic everywhere. Very narrow groove all the way around this racetrack.
Across the top of the screen, you'll see the scoring tracker, and you'll see either a green bar or a yellow bar under certain names. The green bar means that they are in the chase with a win. The yellow bar means they're top 16 in points. So drivers that are top 16 in points after the next 2 races will advance and fight for the championship at the end of the year.
And Rick, we're on board with Martin Truex Jr. A lot of cars have throwback paint schemes to history in the sport. With the paint scheme on Martin Truex cars, throwback to his sponsor, 100 years for auto owners. This is the paint scheme to honor that sponsor, and he's looking good, looked good all weekend. We've seen the 78 have so many great races this year, but keeps tripping up with mistakes. Can they avoid the mistakes? Can they get it ironed out? Remember, the 78 won the Southern 500 in 2011, the first ever win for that company.
And Steve, one of the things about the 78 that Cole Pern told me this weekend was that they didn't have to compromise on the setup between ends of the racetrack. Remember, this is an oddly shaped track, narrower in one end than the other. He said we connected the corner very well, and we did not have to change our setup based on which end we were on. That's a big positive.
We're going to talk about compromise all night, Rick. In my opinion, the compromise to Darlington is this end of the racetrack right here that Martin Truex Jr. is going into, and that's turns 3 and 4. There are two options to go through that. The top, right where Martin Truex Jr. is, or the bottom, down along the apron. I think you could be okay in 1 and 2 and have a good night. But to win or run in the top 5, you have to really have a good car in turns 3 and 4.
Right now, the top 2 are Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski. The difference between the two, 2.4 seconds separating those two. Marty.
2 Stewart-Haas racing cars are in the top 3, Rick. Kurt Busch is one of those cars. He's in the 3rd position right now. They were in contention to be able to win the Southern 500 last year. Left side of your screen, you see Clint Bowyer on pit road as well for Kurt Busch. He said this morning, car wasn't very good yesterday in practice, but he told the team a moment ago he made good changes. This morning, car's a little bit better, a little too tight, and that's it.
Wow, we just saw the 19 car, Carl Edwards. He was all the way on the apron entering turn 1, getting around a lap car, so he had to make an evasive move to get on the bottom. That is as low as you want to be.
Steve, we've already seen pit stops start, or at least in that situation, Clint Bowyer come to pit road.
But look how low the 19 continues to run. Even in 3 and 4, he is way on the bottom of the racetrack. Right here, he enters on the apron. Look how low he is underneath the 41. So he's found something that works way on the bottom of the racetrack.
Made the move, made the pass. Carl Edwards.
Easy, actually.
Yeah. Watch how low he is in 3 and 4 as he drives in the corner, puts his left sides on that white line on the very bottom. Well, he got up the racetrack a little bit, missed his line just a touch, but even leaving the corner, he's below the racetrack on the apron of.
A year ago, Carl Edwards was 2 laps down, came back and won the race, won the Southern 500.
Rick, we're going to talk about this all night, but 500 miles at Darlington is like 1,000 miles at Charlotte. This racetrack demands concentration. Jeff behind the wheel. This has got to be one of the most mentally demanding racetracks, as close as you run to the wall all night.
Yeah, as we listen to these spotters tonight, you're going to start hearing them say race the racetrack. Well, what does that mean? That means pay attention to this racetrack. These walls will jump out and bite you. You have to run right against them. If you race the competition instead of that racetrack, it's going to bite you at some point, because you're going to be paying more attention to that car in front of you or the car behind you than you are the racetrack and the walls.
Just as you say that, let's listen in to the 2 radio.
I have a vibration. It's about a 3 on a scale of 10. Car is just pretty well balanced, just needing a little bit of speed.
So you hear a vibration. He says a 3, 2, 3 on a 10 scale, so something to worry about, crew chief?
Well, I think it's good to document. I'd be more concerned if it changes. So if it starts at a 3 and a few laps into the race, we're at a 4 or 5 or a 6. If it's getting worse, then perhaps something's going wrong. If it's something he can live with, then, you know, you're just going to have to put up with it for most of the evening.
Steve, one of the biggest things about the Southern 500 and Darlington Raceway, as we see the hand out the window there of the Tide car, Tide ride, is the way this track eats tires. It just tears the tires apart. A year ago, there were 18 cautions. How many sets of tires do these guys have?
Well, they have 12 sets in the pits. I think last year 18 cautions kind of scared everybody. I think early cautions were their concern, but we're already 30 laps in, Marty, without a caution. That has to be helping the crew chiefs with their tire decisions.
Well, Steve, a moment ago, Jeff was talking about how this racetrack can reach out and bite you. That's what happened to Clint Bowyer's team. Check out that, the right rear, no air pressure. It's called a Darlington stripe when you get into the wall. That's a pretty big Darlington stripe for Clint Bowyer and his race team. That's why they had to come down pit road. But yes, you know it, Steve. The drivers start screaming for tires early in a run. We're 30 laps in, already asking for those tires.
And you see the 15 back up through traffic. That's how important tires are. He came to pit road because of a flat, but he's passing lead lap cars, fast cars. Tires are worth that much here.
Clint Bowyer pitted from 27th, but you can see the speed that he has with the 4 fresher tires, and everyone else out on the racetrack trying to gain some position back. Out in front, Kevin Harvick now has a 3-second lead. Definitely doesn't want anyone to pull him down. NASCAR Race View gives you access to features that let you follow your favorite drivers if you're at the track. Get live stats, leaderboards, driver and team communications, and more on all your devices. It's available now for an all-new low price when you visit NASCAR.com/raceview. Welcome back to the Bojangles Southern 500. Riding along with Eric Almirola, currently 22nd. Let's take a look at tonight's Ram Guts and Glory, guys.
Well, that's appropriate for Cale Yarborough, no doubt. 2012 NASCAR Hall of Fame inductee and a 3-time NASCAR champion.
Yeah, this is Cale Yarborough's scheme that Kevin Harvick has chose to run here, and it's a great scheme. A 3-time champion, 83 wins, 5 of them here at Darlington. When you talk about guts and glory, I don't think there was a tougher driver than Cale Yarborough. I've always heard that story. He'd come by to lap you, you'd look over, feet red in the face, not a sweat on the forehead, just unbelievable attack the racetrack.
And of course, channeling my inner Ken Squire, Cale Yarborough's from Timmonsville, South Carolina, just 15 miles from the track.
We see Kevin Harvick. See Kevin Harvick right there. Had his hand up, trying to keep the sun. Watch his left hand. Puts his hand up, shading himself so he can see getting into turn 3. Now that's at 185 miles an hour, by the way.
Right.
So that is something Cale Yarborough would have done, I have a feeling.
Look at that. He's just gonna.
And you see the sun right in his eye.
And it's at the worst place.
Right.
It's as you're entering turn 3. It's not. It's at an awful place. If it were halfway down the back straightaway, no big deal. But it's entering turn 3 where the problem is. So that's the hardest corner to get into, to get your timing right, to make sure you are where you need to be at the right speed. Very demanding for these drivers.
And not only demanding for the drivers, Jeff, they're going to have to do it for about the next 30 minutes. A couple crew chiefs have told their drivers that sunset's going to be an issue for about 20 to 30 minutes as Harvick's out front. Yesterday in practice, the car was not very fast for this 14, but Kevin Harvick never was really panicked. He wanted the car to get a little bit better, but he's more looking for a feel. There you see him put that left hand up once again, trying to shade himself from the sun. It's kind of what you're looking for, Jeff, as a driver. The feel, more than anything here at Darlington, is what you're after.
It really is, and that's the thing, is that it's rhythm. This racetrack's about rhythm. You want to push as hard as you can, but if you push too hard, you get yourself in trouble. But you have to see where you want to be on the racetrack to get the car there. So turn 3 is so difficult anyway, and obviously this has made it more difficult.
This driver's impressing me more than any. At the start of the race, had to go to the back because unapproved adjustments, and it's already made his way up to 17th. And we mentioned at the top of the show, Ryan Newman fighting for a spot in the chase. He just went by Chase Elliott.
Yeah, you see the bubble points there on your screen. He's still 17 back, so he hasn't made the points up. But what he has to do is, I give him win 1 in the head games division. He started dead last in this field and has run down one of his bubble competitors past Chase Elliott, and I'm sure McMurray, Austin Dillon, a few spots in front of him, they're hearing over the radio, hey, that 31's coming.
Well, that's right. When you are McMurray, you see 2 cars in front of him is Jamie McMurray, and he's looking. He sees him in the mirror going down the back straightaway and the front straightaway. He sees that 31. So McMurray in the #1 blue car, a throwback scheme to Bill Elliott, he's looking at his competition coming from dead last. That means you know he's better than you. You're going to have to make your race car better.
We just saw the 16 just behind the 1. There's the 16 of Greg Biffle with the Hooters paint scheme, that throwback scheme. Hooters coming back to the sport for this race. Very exciting about that sponsorship coming back for Greg Biffle. But also, Biffle got very loose there. This is about the time in these runs where the tires are about gone for these guys. And so all of a sudden now you're starting to see guys moving all over the racetrack trying to find any type of grip.
Yeah, that's right. And look at the 3 car right here. The 3 car is also in the points with Jamie McMurray pushing the 3 car. That's a throwback scheme to his granddad, Richard Childers. But he's competing against Ryan Newman for these points also. So the pressure's on McMurray and Dillon right now.
And you see what makes it even more difficult is as your tires wear, Rick, you're also catching lap traffic. So we see that 38 of Landon Castle trying to do the best he can to run his race and get out of his car. That's the 38 right there, that silver, goldish, and blue scheme, that J.D. McDuffie throwback scheme, trying to get out of these leaders' way, but there's only so much room on the racetrack.
All of the spotters are now talking about the 31 and how good that driver is and how good that car is. Actually, let's listen in to the 2-car radio and what they had to say.
What line outside? No, the line you just ran passing the traffic. Before can run that line and pass traffic a little more quickly. Okay, good to know.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less. And I think right now a few drivers might be a little bit worried about this long green flag run.
Well, people are learning right now who has the best car and who doesn't have the best car. But Steve, it's so important for the team to be communicating with the driver, to tell them what other drivers are doing. Kevin Harvick's out here leading the race. He has no idea what people are doing behind him. And Keselowski, by the way, running second. He can't really watch Harvick's line because he's so far ahead. So that communication from the spotter is so important.
Denny Hamlin in the 11. That's a Darrell Waltrip throwback scheme, as the 42 is now on pit road. Marty?
Well, Rick, here's the dilemma. You want to pit early in the window if you can, and kind of short pit. We're going to see this all evening long. Chad Johnson making the call for last week's winner at Michigan, Kyle Larson, to come down pit road. So putting on 4 fresh Goodyear tires is going to be a huge advantage in terms of speed. We'll see if that pays off for this race team. It's going to be an air pressure adjustment to tighten up that 42, Dave.
Martin Truex Jr. was running 5th, Marty, and he said the right front tire just feels like it's not working, but everything else is okay. He'll get 4 Goodyear tires and a Phillips Sunoco fuel. For Denny Hamlin, his complaint, no grip at all. He'll have some grip with those fresh Goodyear tires to start out with. Kelly?
Kyle Busch was good for about 11 laps, and he said he just got wicked loose, dropping from 3rd back to 10th at one point. You see it's going to be 4 fresh Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel for Kyle Busch in that 18 car.
Matt Kenseth on pit road right now. He said he's a little bit tight right now in turns 1 and 2. They're going to make a 4-tire change in Sunoco race fuel on the Tide ride for Kenseth. Good stop, he's away. Kelly?
And now you see Jimmy Johnson, who's won this race a few times, said that he needed more front turn going down the hill into turn 2. His crew chief telling him, just save your stuff. 4 tires as well for the 48, Mike.
Ryan Newman had to start at the back of the field for unapproved adjustments, but has since moved his way toward the front. A very clean stop. Was a little bit tight. They made an air pressure adjustment.
Mike, Brad Keselowski ran second for most of that run. He said the balance is decent, but it needs to be a little bit tighter in 1 and 2. He didn't mention a word about that vibration after he mentioned it the very first time. 4 fresh Goodyear tires for Brad Keselowski. For leader Kevin Harvick, he hits pit road. He said he's lacking a little bit of rear grip all the way around, and air pressure adjustment to tighten up that car. We'll see where all these green flag stops cycle out, Kelly.
Ryan Blaney in that 21 iconic car said that his car just got mad tight, but then it started to get loose going down the hill in that turn 2. 4 tires for Ryan Blaney.
And pit road penalties coming for the 3 and the 95 already. The 3 of Austin Dillon and the 95 of Michael McDowell speeding on pit road.
And we're going to hear that a lot, Rick. Remember, NASCAR's been adding loops. This track used to have 10 loops. It now has 16 different speeding segments. Much smaller, much harder to correct if you come on pit road too fast.
Green flag pit stops have cycled through. Kevin Harvick back out front has a 3.5-second lead over Brad Keselowski in Darlington.
Give the pass a slip.
Get your NASCAR coverage when you're on the go with NASCAR Mobile. It's the official app of NASCAR. It puts race coverage and live in-car cameras right at your fingertips. You can also listen to drivers and teams discuss race strategy. Just download that free at NASCAR.com/mobile. Let's see who is on the move. Brought to you by Chevrolet. And most definitely Ryan Newman on the move. Plus 19 positions. Paul Menard as well, 19 spots. Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, and Greg Biffle all on the move.
You know, Rick, we've talked a lot about Ryan Newman because he is in that chase bubble spot, but Paul Menard also had to go to the back, and you see him right on that list, gaining a lot of positions, 19, following his teammate Ryan Newman up to the field. There's been a lot of talk. That 27, I think, felt good about his car in practice, and it's showing so far in the race.
Yeah, let's don't forget about Greg Biffle, the 16 Hooters car right in front of the 31 of Ryan Newman. You know, we haven't talked a lot about them being a team that could possibly win a race and get themselves into the chase, but there is no question that the 16 of Biffle is capable. He is capable of winning a race at Darlington. Get him in the right spot, and it could be interesting.
Imagine how that would shake up the chase standings if Greg Biffle was able to break into the top 16 and win a race, and that would then push another one down below that cutoff line.
Well, you talk about the cutoff line. The 3 of Austin Dillon is only +7 after a speeding penalty, all the way back in 31st position, a lap down, really in danger of losing a second lap. So that was a major penalty for Austin Dillon. There's a lot of time left, 308 laps. But we've heard about mistakes. You have to try to eliminate or at least reduce the number of mistakes. Awful early to make a mistake for Austin Dillon's 3 team.
And Steve, it is a long race, so a lot of time to recover, and that's the one thing that Slugger Labbe did tell Austin Dillon. That's his crew chief. He said, listen, we have a lot of time to recover from this, but coming into the race, they put a lot of emphasis on Darlington. They felt like this was one of their worst racetracks on the schedule, but they felt like they took dramatic leaps this weekend. So much better in practice with a chance to finish in the top 10. This is going to hurt that effort, and that's the one thing Slugger Labbe kept preaching. We cannot have mistakes. First stop of the day, a speeding penalty set them pretty far back.
Well, Marty, mistakes hurt a great deal. Remember, every position is a point. That's how this works. Points are simple. Every position means 1 point. But now that a mistake has happened, and you're on the toughest racetrack in NASCAR, how do you handle it? Do not overreact. It is lap 61 of a 367-lap race. Don't try to do too much. You're not going to make it up in 30 laps. Be patient. Grind it out. Find a way to get a good finish. Don't make a mistake after the first mistake.
Well, and you saw the graphic about pit road, the major changes, so many different speeding loops added, the distance is much smaller. So Austin Dillon, rest assured, sir, you will not be the only driver, I bet, that gets caught speeding on pit road today.
Let's get a few quick updates from pit road. Kelly.
Starting with Jimmie Johnson in that 48 car. He has 3 wins here at Darlington. One of them gave Hendrick Motorsports its 200th victory. That was back in 2012. But even with that success, Jimmie says the respect that Darlington commands is incredible. Competing there is no easy feat. His crew chief, Chad Knaus, told me he felt good about their car. He felt like they could be competitive all night. Early in this run, Jimmie has said that his car was a little bit tight when he came to pit road. They made an air pressure adjustment to help him out there, Dave.
Kelly, remember last week at Michigan, Chase Elliott had a chance to win but did not. Alan Gustafson, his crew chief, told me that night Chase called him to talk it over, and he said, okay, now we're done and let's get over it. Rear view mirror, we're going to Darlington. He believes Chase can win here tonight. He'll have to get some grip in that car and some tightness out of it in order to be able to do it. Mike?
Dave, this is the 5th time Jeff Gordon has been behind the wheel of the 88, subbing for Dale Earnhardt Jr. But unlike the first 4, Jeff Gordon said this was the first time during this stint where he felt like he was giving legitimate notes and legitimate feedback during the meetings. That's because he's so familiar with this package at this racetrack, having run it here a year ago. He's also a 7-time winner here in Darlington, so that's not too bad either. Right now, no turn. He'd like the car to just be a little bit more free through the corner. Rick?
And we're looking at Jeff Gordon in the driver's seats, but right now it's Kevin Harvick who's really in the driver's seat, leading the Southern 500. Welcome back to the Bojangles Southern 500. Kevin Harvick, last time he started first, led 238 laps and won the 2014 Southern 500, and he started first today and has led all 70 laps that have been run.
Well, Rick, Kevin Harvick has been impressive, and we've talked a lot about Ryan Newman and Paul Menard, who started in the back, but one car that started mid-pack, Kyle Larson, 16th position, has driven all the way up to the 5th position. There was a lot of talk about last week's winner, big win for this young man, and he just seems to be settled in, being patient, just taking off spots, but that's a lot of spots on a 71-lap green flag run.
And guys, he kind of joked earlier this week saying everyone thinks I'm good at Darlington because I like to run the high line. He said actually right here in 3 and 4 there's proof of it. He said I like to run the low line. He said I think that's faster when it gets dark, and that's less grip or better grip down there on the bottom of the racetrack. He said the car is a little bit too free. It just needs to be a little bit tighter at the beginning of a run for us to be where we want it to be at the end of a run. They think they can be even a little bit better. But Jeff, what is it about drivers that once they win, it seems they know the formula to get to victory lane and they can replicate that? Certainly seems to be the case for Kyle Larson, running awfully well here.
Well, I think confidence means a great deal. We've seen Kyle Larson be fast in races and not find a way to finish them off and win the race. But last week shows him that he can finish races off. We already know he has speed. The question is, when can he find a way to not make the little mistake, to not have the pit crew make that little mistake, to jump over that hurdle and get that first win. But after you get it, something happens. It's confidence with everybody that says, hey, this guy knows how to win. And mainly the driver, he knows that he knows how to win.
Yeah, but listen, I'll be to the point. Disappointed in this young man last night. I thought he could have won that Xfinity race. Missed pit road. That happens at Darlington, but that's the 2nd year in a row he's had an issue coming to pit road here, Rick. Those are the types of mistakes that he's going to have to try to clean up to move up that next set of ranks and run for a championship when the Chase Field is set in Richmond.
And look at the Chase standings. We're talking about a 24-year-old out of Elk Grove, California, with Kyle Larson with that win, he moves to 11th on the Chase standings. That pushed Ryan Newman out of the top 16 and into the 17th spot. Now just 9 points separating the two drivers fighting to get into the chase.
You can see the 42 on the very bottom of the racetrack. Got really loose right there. We've seen him loose off both corners, loose getting in the corner, but he's still making lap time. The only problem with that, the longer you do that, the harder it is on your tires. So you've got to manage that a little bit, not try to drive the car so hard that you're slipping the tires and damaging the tires.
Well, one thing about it, he's running that classic Chip Ganassi paint scheme, that target scheme. It's easier to pick out. Maybe not as easy as this one, though. Nothing is easier to pick out than that, you know, simple petty blue and orange STP 43 1979 colors. We've seen that car for years. That one is pretty easy to recognize on the racetrack.
So iconic.
A little further back behind these guys, we talked about Jamie McMurray and how Newman was putting pressure on him, but since that pit stop, Jamie McMurray and his team they've made their car a lot better. They've had top 5 speeds since that pit stop, and they have separated themselves from Newman now by over 4 seconds, 3.5 seconds. So good change, good adjustment to the car. Now McMurray is back to not giving up space and actually catching the guys in front of him.
And when I talked to Jamie McMurray's crew chief, Matt McCall, and asked him if they were going to be looking where the 31 was on track, he said, no, we're going to go out there and just get the best results we can. We feel like we have more to lose than gain if we start worrying ourselves about where everyone else is winning. He said, we're just going out there to try to get that win like we always have. By the way, his teammate Kyle Larson got his first win on race start number 99. Well, this is race start number 499 for Jamie McMurray. They'd like to take that special number to victory lane tonight.
I think any start would be a special number to get to victory lane, wouldn't it, Joe?
Kelly, I'm not sure they're telling you the truth. I think it's human nature. I think when you're racing someone and it's that close, I think you have to pay attention to what your competition is doing. Even if you say, I'm not going to, you go into that race saying, let's focus on ourselves, and that's what you need to do. You're always looking out of the corner of your eye, head on a swivel, so to speak, looking around to see what your competition is doing. Making the chase is so big. It means so much.
As we continue our 1975 to 84 throwback scheme, these guys are driving their lives away at Darlington.
This is Richard Petty, the car behind us, a beautiful replica of the 67 car that you won so many races with. You built this in the same bay at the shop. What was that like?
Well, it was really a neat deal. You know, we did it for Smithfield and stuff, and they wanted to fix one that they could ride up and down the road. But what we did was put it beside a 67 that we had, made it as racy as we could, and then made it into a road car after that.
A really cool thing, Smithfield and Albertsons built this car. You can visit winning43.com for your chance to win, or any Albertsons supermarkets between now and September 27th.
And once again, for more details regarding winning the King's car, visit winning43.com. And there is the iconic 79 paint scheme from the King. And that race, the Daytona 500, when he was able to win the Daytona 500 back in 1979, what an incredible win, and really put NASCAR on the map. Rutt.
Rick, the throwback theme down here runs strong, not only from the hats and, of course, the driving suits, but look at this beautiful facial hair. A lot of the guys did a big social media challenge. It was all about the Fu Manchu, the mustache hiding right back there. The crew guys look good. The team, everybody's getting behind it. But there's something about these STP colors running around Darlington that just makes everything feel right down here, Rick.
Thanks, Rutt. And we just saw the 11 of Denny Hamlin get by Eric Almirola. Good battle here. 22 of Joey Logano making the move around Kyle Larson. Logano using the lower line as Larson continues to hug the wall.
You know, this is that tough time of the race, Rick. You see these cars in 3 and 4 in the shade. Well, watch as they come down the front stretch. They're going to pop out into the sunshine and go into turns 1 and 2. So this end of the racetrack still has the sun on it, still has the temperature in the asphalt. These two ends are already very, very different. And now the temperature is going to make them drive even more different.
30 minutes until the sun sets, or is we're being told the sun will set at 7:41 here on the East Coast in the Darlington area. So about 30 minutes until that happens. So the drivers for 30 more minutes are going to have to deal with looking into that sun as they go down the back straight into turn 3.
And I think what we're seeing right now is Kyle Larson You know, he's not running as fast as these guys are. He just looked too loose early in that run, and when you're loose at Darlington, you just eat those tires up. So he's going to continue to probably lose spots here. It's just so hard on tires.
But like a veteran, losing spots in control. He knows there's 279 laps to go. This is actually something we've been looking for out of Kyle Larson. We know he can make speed. We talked about mistakes. Avoid mistakes. Let these cars go. Come to pit road, work on your car next round of pit stops.
And Steve, things move fast here at Darlington. Remember, Chad Johnson, the crew chief for Kyle Larson, was the first one to come to pit road last time. Now we're entering that window, probably about 8 laps away before they do it again. The move, though, is to be the first car to pit road. That's how he was able to gain so many spots. Just that one extra lap on those fresher tires helped that 42, but they're paying the price for it right now.
Kevin Harvick out front, Brad Keselowski. Matt Kenseth has made his way all the way up to third, looking fairly impressive as we look at Kevin Harvick trying to get around the 27 of Paul Menard.
Remember, the 27 was penalized before the race and had to go to the back. Well, the result of that is that Kevin Harvick has caught him and is trying to put him a lap down. Paul's done a good job of fighting him off. Can't fight him off any longer, though. But just ahead of Paul Menard in the 4 car is Greg Biffle, Chase Elliott, Ryan Newman, Tony Stewart. So they're going to have to get going because the leader is coming.
Kevin Harvick, impressive, mistake-free so far. 91 laps into the race, he's led everyone.
And as pit stops get ready to start happening under green, you're going to have to be careful not to try to get on pit road too quick here and get penalized. Mike.
Jeff Gordon on pit road, and during the course of that run, Jeff, he said he just lost rear grip. They're going to go to work on the chassis. A wedge adjustment on the right side. A 4-tire change for Gordon, trying to give him that grip he needs to get back on the lead lap. Marty?
And once again, Kyle Larson, the first of those lead lap cars to come to pit road. Chad Johnson making that call. So they put themselves in a situation here where they're going to short pit almost every stop today that they can. You see those 4 fresh Goodyear tires. Terrific shot of that pit stop for the Target team. And he wants a little bit of a change to tighten up the race car early in the run. They feel like that's what's hurting them at the end of the run. Kelly?
Jimmie Johnson had been running 6th. He said he needs more front turn and he could use a little more overall grip, but he said especially more grip needed in the rear. He had lowered the track about a little bit. You see him giving the chassis adjustment there, and it will be 4 Goodyear tires and fuel for Jimmie Johnson. Meanwhile, the 18 of Kyle Busch, who just took off a little bit too tight on that last run, but then he said it was definitely getting better as he ran. He wants to keep heading in that direction, Mike.
Ryan Newman continuing to battle from the back. A 4-tire change there. The car's been a little bit tight again. An air pressure adjustment for him, but he's been moving forward all night long.
Behind him, Joey Logano coming to pit road, who's had a nice run into the top 6. The car not very good in practice yesterday. They made several changes, including put a part of Brad Keselowski's setup on this car. It's going to be 4 fresh Goodyear tires. You see the wedge adjustment for Joey Logano, who's been dealing with a tight condition for much of that run, Mike.
Kenseth in the midst of a very strong run, running inside the top 5 much of the night so far. Car trending just a little bit loose as the run went on. They're going to go to work on the chassis, take a round of wedge out of the left side, and a 4-tire change. Rick?
And the caution's going to come out. The 6 looked to be spinning around trying to get to pit road. I believe that's what it was. Trevor Bayne gets around, and the caution will come out for the first time.
It couldn't be at a worse time in the middle of green flag pit stops, Jeff.
Yeah, this is bad timing for everybody. It's going to take a little while to sort this out. You know, some cars may got it lapped down in this sequence. The 6 car of Trevor Bayne made the mistake we see almost every race here. Getting on this pit road is very difficult. You have to get on so much slower than you think. So we're going to see Trevor Bayne as he tries to get on pit road. Right now he's in the middle of 3 and 4. See McMurray on pit road. He's trying to get slowed down, has the brakes locked up, can't get it turned, tries to get it turned and spins the car out. So this is something that happens over and over at Darlington. Spins right in front of the field. Luckily nobody else got into it.
And a pretty heads-up move there. The car that was behind him decided not to come to pit road at that time because he knew the caution was about to come out. Gear up with the pit crew and get the latest NASCAR t-shirts, hats, and diecast at the NASCAR.com Superstore. Visit NASCAR.com/Superstore today for all your favorite drivers' gear. Under the first caution of the day, and you're going to have a few guys coming towards you, Marty.
And one of those would be Brad Keselowski, and he's going to come down pit road. But we'll talk about Kevin Harvick real quick, who was on pit road when the caution came out. So what's going to happen here? The three guys up front pitting right now, including Brad Keselowski. Then Kevin Harvick and his team will take the wave around. In theory, they should be back on the lap and restart fine. For Brad Keselowski, who ran second for much of that run, he said the car just needs more drive off. He said it was on the splitter early in the run, way too long. And this is the advantage. They're going to be on pit road with very few cars. They can kind of take their time, put 4 Goodyear tires on, make that air pressure adjustment, and try and make it a little bit better. Remember, he's been running second for much of this race.
So Keselowski on pit road. As soon as he gets off of pit road, sure enough, Keselowski, one of the only, there was 3 that were on the lead lap because of that caution. When we come back, we'll introduce you to a couple legends, Ken Squire, Ned Jarrett, and Dale Jarrett on the other side of the break. NASCAR on NBC is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road. Because this caution came out when we were in the middle of pit stops, it put a lot of people in a very difficult position. Explain what's going to happen for this restart.
Well, let's start with the big winners. The big winners in the whole situation are the 24 Chase Elliott. He was running 17th. The 17 of Ricky Stenhouse. He was 20th a lap down. The caution comes out. They hadn't pitted yet, so they're going to gain a ton of track position. But for all the cars that had pitted, who were 1 lap down, there were only 3 cars in the lead lap. They come to pit road, puts all these cars a lap down. Well, now they're behind them on the racetrack. So at 1 to go, everyone that's in front of the leader on the racetrack gets to drive around the pace car. That basically gives them back in the lead lap. So let's talk about Kevin Harvick, Matt Kenseth, Martin Truex. All the front runners we've seen today, they're going to get what's called a wave around. It's basically a free pass by the pace car. Going to lose their track position, but importantly, Jeff, they won't be a lap down.
Yeah, that's right. It's a little confusing, but once they give the 1 to go, you'll see who's going to take the pass around. It'll be pretty clear.
And the 34 gets the free pass. So Chris Buescher will get the free pass and get his lap back. He was the highest scored lap down car at the time of the caution.
Well, what really hurts is Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney was running 14th, which unfortunately for him was far enough back. Look at, because he's going to take the wave around. But his issue, Rick, is he lost a lap in this whole situation. So because of where he pitted, it's very complicated. There's nothing more confusing in oval track racing than the wave around. And here it is. The pace car pulls over. Look at all of these cars right here driving by the pace car.
The 48 is on pit road right now because the rear tire changer was pushing down on the rear quarter panel and potentially making a little bit of an adjustment there to the body right there. And so they are having them come back in. Now it's time to bring in Ken Squire, Ned Jarrett, and Dale Jarrett. Not only legends, but all Hall of Famers. Guys?
Well, thank you very much. It's always wonderful to be in Darlington. They're all great races when you talk about the NASCAR Cup events. But when you come here to Darlington, this place at this time is a real treasure chest with all of this moving back through the years, bringing in people like these 2 gentlemen here, veterans of this speedway. Dale Jarrett, you know well, as a 3-time winner, and this fella is just incredible as far as I'm concerned. Great Ned Jarrett, one of the best broadcasters in the game. Gentlemen, what have we say? What, 101 laps completed so far before we got a caution?
Rare
Pretty
here
good
at
race.
Darlington.
Yeah,
Very, very rare here at Darlington most of the time because of the close quarters, basically a 1-groove racetrack. You're going to have drivers touching each other or cutting each other off or whatever the case might be, and cautions come out. But they've been driving well tonight. The cars are handling good, I guess, is one way that they've been able to avoid those spinouts.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of scrapes with the wall, but very, very minor. And as slick as the track is, I would have expected more. But that caution came at a time that really put a lot of people in a very precarious position. Some had to take the wave around. So this restart is going to be quite exciting, I believe.
you betcha. One more lap before we go to green. And as we get ready to resume with 102 laps complete of the 367, 256 remaining. Is that close somewhere? 265 to go as we've got them double wide coming back down that back straightaway. And incidentally, the sun Don't see that playing that much of a role these days, but it has been nasty. Some of the worst incidents we've witnessed over the years has been when you have a lot of cars together and the sun is directly in front of you and you miss your mark, or some new driver, relatively new, gets slightly off. It can be disastrous. Well, here we are coming around turn 4 and getting ready on a go.
We'll let everyone know quickly, Jimmie Johnson was not eligible for the waiver round because he had to do a pass-through for that penalty that they had, that they got him for pushing down on the rear of that car. So he remains 1 lap down here.
Back for the start. Underway. And the man who dominated this race from the outset now finds himself back in 5th position. Harvick led every lap until this latest incident.
Clean air is so important here at Darlington. It's important on every racetrack, but none more so than here at Darlington. And he was out front to begin with on the pole, Kevin Harvick, and stayed there and was able to sort of call his own shots when he got in traffic, and they moved the other cars over for him, and so he just had it great. It'll be interesting to see, Ken, now how he can do back in the pack just a little bit. Was his car that good?
Yeah. Well, that's what we're about to find out with the number 4 carrying the colors of Cale Yarborough when he was in that tremendous incident Daytona in '79.
Here's Jimmie Johnson back on pit road.
Yeah, they had posted him where he was going to have to make a pass-through penalty for that penalty, that infraction that they did on that pit stop of trying to push down. NASCAR viewed that as something that they were trying to get a little aero advantage with their race car. So he had to come down pit road under green flag conditions for that pass-through.
Gave that car the hip.
Yeah. Well, these teams look, especially when they're at a place like this where they need every aero advantage they can get. They thought that they could get by with that. The one thing you got to realize now, there's cameras everywhere.
That's the truth. And the 48 was in 7th. A year ago at this juncture, we had 30 cars in the lead lap. I think we're down to about 18 right now as we get turned around after this first caution period of the evening.
But we can look back to last year. Carl Edwards was 2 laps down at one time and came back and won the race. So that doesn't put Jimmie Johnson and these other guys that are 1 or 2 laps down out of it yet.
Actually, we had 3 cautions for this time last year. And look who's up there in 2nd spot. The kid that won in the Xfinity race a year ago. That's that Elliott kid, number 24. Right there, challenging Keselowski. Stenhouse in 3rd. Harvick maintains 4th. Then you've got Buescher, the surprise at Pocono. Martin Truex back there in 7th. And you scramble back through the field. Hamlin's getting a shot up here, up into the 7th. Kenseth in 8th as they roll around this track that you can't roll around. Everywhere you go, it's different. The whole shooting match here is such a box-angled affair, and that's what makes it so great, Dale.
Yeah, it does. And we see Kevin Harvick. Y'all talked about him being back in traffic. How good would he be? I think what we're going to see is very patient. He knows he's got a good race car. This track is going to go through a change here. The sun is finally setting. It's going to cool off some, so they're going to have to work with that part of it. You know, you talked about Chris Buescher. This might be the thing that propels him, you know, and keeps him inside that top 30, because he had gone a lap down, but he hadn't pitted yet, so he got the waiver round there. He's about on the lead lap up there running. That could be a huge night points-wise for him. May make Richmond a lot easier for him next week.
We'll talk more about that as the evening progresses, for sure. Here comes Harvick. Sweeping down to the inside, the man with the killer eyes who was somewhat blinded at the start. Didn't bother him a bit. He seemed to make his marks all the time and draw away from the field. But now he's got some making up to do.
At least they don't have that problem going into turn 3 now with the sun shining directly through the windshield.
Yep. Going down that backstretch like that and in this much traffic, it can be catastrophic. So here's Harvick mending his way through the field, looking like he has every intention of staying up here. You know what is interesting to me is we're beginning a new era in NASCAR Cup racing, and we saw Edwards winning a year ago. We saw young Larson win last week at Michigan, And we're looking for the next ones that come along to win like Pearson did, 10, and Earnhardt, 9, and Jeff Gordon, 7, and then a series of them at 5. Who's going to be the next one is going to make those kind of headlines for this NASCAR, this most competitive racing in the world. We've got some good candidates. This is the track that really tests them the most.
Yeah, it really does. And here's a champion 3 times. And Tony Stewart hasn't won the Southern 500. Hasn't won here. That's something he would dearly like to do. We heard him say in the pre-race show that it would be more important for him to win this race tonight than win the championship in his final year, just because that's how much respect he has for this. Who's going to be that next Tony Stewart? You look around, a lot of talent. Is Kyle Larson, last week's winner, that person that we look at that will be that for?
Larson is out again. And I think it's the same situation as before. Somebody's trying to get on pit road, and they lose control up in turn 3, trying to get it into 4, road and on pit road. And we saw it yesterday. Even the guy that won the race spun out there.
Yeah, Brian Scott, he's been having some trouble with his car. Looks like he's got some tires down. That might be from the slide. He was 24th before that. But what this is going to do now, Austin Dillon was in that spot where he was the first car a lap down. That's going to get him back on the lead lap after being penalized for speeding on pit road during that those last caution periods. So that's going to help him tremendously.
Dale, tell us about how tricky, how troublesome it is to get on pit road on this racetrack.
You know, they talk about it. They haven't changed much about this track, but we see more people miss pit road here through the years. Now we're going to look at a replay here. It looks like a little contact there that Brian Scott got a little help in the left rear. Not sure exactly who that is coming at us.
Bit of a drop kick.
Yeah, it looked like it could have possibly been the 38 car maybe.
So it wasn't getting on pit road. It was up on the track itself, up on the banking.
Yeah, they were coming through turns 1 and 2.
Well, we'll be back with more of the action, and we mean action. And it's beginning to bubble here on this 1.366 mile track. Oh, we're staying here watching the number 44 come in. Yeah, they've got big trouble.
Yeah, you've got no choice but to lock it up and try to keep it out of the wall there. But everybody's going to be coming to get some more tires, Dave.
And DJ, they talked about it. Yep, with that many laps on them, we got to come. They run out pretty quick. So 4 Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel for Chase Elliott. For the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse, it is getting better, but it's still tight. He'll get 4 tires and adjustments. Marty?
Dave, even just 12 laps, they're going to come down pit road. Brian Kozlowski told Paul Wolf, his crew chief, he said, the adjustment you made last time, I could tell it helped, but we need a little bit more. So you see that wedge wrench going in the back of the car. It's been a little bit too tight. They're trying to free it up, and they're going to do an air pressure adjustment. Kevin Harvick said the car was loose early in that run, just 12 green flag laps, but hitting pit road for 4 fresh Goodyear tires and an air pressure adjustment, trying to tighten up that 4 car. We'll see who wins this race off pit road. Ken?
Race off pit road, brought to you by Geico. Aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. Back with you once again, and there's the sun where you want it to be and not in your windshield as we get ready to get after it again. Kozlowski will be the man on the point, and young Elliott, Chase Elliott, will be riding in the 2nd position. Harvick in 3rd as we square off and get ready to fire them up once again on this track, which is unto itself the most challenging of the super speedways. No matter how you figure it, it doesn't figure anyplace else on this racetrack. The corners are different. The straightaways, that you have to set up for them differently. There's not anything here that you can rely upon like you do so many tracks. Right here at this track, every inch of it seems to be a challenge.
And that's what every race driver looks for, is a challenge.
And
boy, he gets it here at Darlington more than any other track that I ever raced on. It was the most challenging track, and as a result, it's the track that I like the most.
Well, it's the one you won by 14 laps on.
I was lucky, very lucky.
Lucky, my purple.
Well, lucky to finish.
Yeah.
That was the deal.
Okay.
Got 20 cars on the lead lap now. Ryan Newman is the first car 1 lap down.
Field up for a start. Under green. Keselowski slips right out in front. Throws the block and comes to the outside. Opens the inside to number 4. Let's see what Harvick will do here. Chase Elliott and that beautiful yellow and black machine holding on to him as they come down out of turn number 2 and into the back straightaway.
Almost a disadvantage to restart second on the outside where Chase Elliott was there trying to get down into turn 1, especially if that third place car like Harvick gets a good restart.
Martin Truex maintaining that 4th position. Martin Truex could be a major player in this race before it's over. They were very optimistic when we chatted with them this morning that they have this one figured out, the combination right. There goes that old number 18 that you know pretty well, Dale.
Yeah, it looks like a good car. I think Dad had the pleasure of calling that car to a nice victory for our family down the Daytona 500.
Yeah. Brings back very pleasant memories.
And Dale Jarrett's going to win the 500. Remember that?
One of the special moments, certainly for the Jarrett family in the sport of auto racing.
So we have Kenseth running in 6, as you see. Stewart's but they're in 11th. Harvick is holding on to that 2nd spot, and we'll see what he's going to do with Keselowski. Elliott hanging in there tight with Martin Truex, and then Ricky Stenhouse, the 17, a factor at this point in the event.
Yeah, while we got a little break right here, I'll document a couple of things that happened under that last caution as the leaders came to pit road. We had some guys take the wave around. We said Austin Dillon got the free pass. Paul Menard, Ryan Blaney, Eric Almirola got back on the lead lap there. Ryan Newman did go to pit road, but he's still 1 lap down battling Greg Biffle for that. Jimmy Johnson took the wave around. Instead of being 2 laps down, he's just 1 lap down. Don't forget, Carl Edwards was 2 laps down at one time last year, came back and won this race.
And Stewart is up to 11th position in number 14 in his quest to win this 500.
Here's Eric Almirola. You can see how concentrated he is. He's not moving those eyes, moving that steering wheel, though. That's a constant here at Darlington. You're always moving that steering wheel.
You're either catching it or setting it, one or the other. Catching it as that car begins to want to go up that track, head for that fence.
We talk about racing the track, and his focus is on the racetrack, but when you're trying to make a pass, a little bit of that attention has to be taken away to look at that car. If he happens to slip just a little bit, you're wide open in the throttle. You don't want to create a bad situation for yourself. So so many things going on that makes this tough.
You have to be offense, have to be defense, all at the same time. Let's go down to Kelly.
And that's Eric Almirola in those iconic day-glow colors there on the Petty car. It has admittedly not been the season that they had hoped for. They're now building those cars in shop at Richard Petty Motorsports. Talking to Trent Owens, the crew chief on that car, he just said, not the year that we've anticipated, so they're going to spend the rest of this season just trying to bring new ideas, new cars to the track in hopes that they can start building something better over the winter for next season. Right now, Eric, though, saying his car is getting a little bit better, Ken.
Looking in battle at 8th position. Logano with the 22, getting after it big time. And McMurray falls back to 9th, car number 1.
Yeah, McMurray not pushing the issue. This is a night that Jamie McMurray, who's very experienced here, he just needs a solid night, trying to solidify that place he's got right now in the chase. He just needs not to make any mistakes and go to Richmond with a good, solid effort there, and he'll find himself in the chase for the 2nd year in a row.
And Elliott is one of those that's on the balance beam as to whether or not he's going to make it into the 16 that will go for those 10 events to decide the national title this year. I really like that format.
Oh, it's great. Been the best thing that's happened to this sport in a long, long time for sure.
Let's go to Marty.
Tony Stewart in 12th right there. Ken running the Bobby Allison paint scheme. There are also 2 other paint schemes on the track that Tony has actually driven himself. Here's what he had to say on the radio about that.
Ahead of me, and I feel like I'm looking at myself. Kind of creepy, isn't it? I mean, oddly enough, it really is. It's like an out-of-body experience. And I've kind of wanted There's a lot of times I'd like to have that happen, though.
Stewart having a little fun on the radio, of course, looking at his Xfinity Series paint scheme, which Joey Logano is running right now. It also was Bobby Labonte's paint scheme and his rookie paint scheme in the Sprint Cup Series that Carl Edwards is running this weekend. A moment ago, they said, hey, everybody's getting by you early in the run. He said, yeah, I kind of noticed that. But on the long run, that's where Stewart is really good right now, running in 12th, trying to win his first ever Southern 500, Ken.
That's a double feature, that number 14, because in the first year, it was a Holman Moody Coke car and won the event, and it was a 69 Ford, and that was in what, 1971. Then in 72, it was a Chevrolet with Bobby Allison. Oh, it's a mixed breed here in Cup racing. All right, we're going to be taking a quick break and then back to see how Harvick gets along with this thing, and Edwards is in 10th and really coming. To purchase tickets to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race at Richmond on Saturday, the last race before the chase, visit NASCAR.com/tickets. Well, right now, Edwards is a major function again in this race. He won it a year ago. Can he win it again now? Let's listen to him on the radio a few moments ago.
On entry, and just kind of stays there right at the Bojangles in the center. He's up there right against the fence. I'd say that he's moved just a quarter lane lower on entry, right up to the fence, sustains that, pulls it down the hill just half a lane.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less. Edwards, a year ago, when he won this thing, led just 15 laps. And you know which ones they were. So we'll see if he's going to put it back together today. His nemesis, that number 4, is right there in second spot at the present time. And back to the lead. Keselowski there and Harvick. Harvick moving down just a little closer to the bottom. Now making a big move to the bottom. Is he going to challenge as we go to turn 3?
Yeah, Harvick's been very smart here tonight as he worked his way through traffic after getting back there. And yeah, I think Harvick has a little bit of Cale Yarborough and David Pearson mixture about him. He knows when to attack, and he's ready to do that at any time, but he's also smart enough to understand that there's a lot of time left in this race.
Here they are. Oh, the two sliding up the track. There's the opening, and down through the hole comes that car, number 4, back into first place.
Entry, you're fine. Clear all around.
He just flat lost it for a moment, and he had to lift off the throttle and get back into it.
Perfect example of what we talk about. We heard Jeff Burton talking about it earlier, about racing the racetrack, and that's what happens when you start racing your competitor. He knew the 4 was in his mirror, so he tried to get a little more speed through the center of the corner down in 3. Got really sideways. Did a nice job of saving it, did Brad.
But that's what you do all night on this racetrack, is you save it time and time again. You just don't set the wheel and get through the corner. Take a look at number 11. Making a good run. Hamlin is there. Edwards after him. Edwards picking up. He's in 10th at the present time, would like 9th. Take a look at that pass for the lead another time right here.
Yeah, you see, Brad, he had a 13 car that he knew that he was going to try to slide by, so he tried to carry a little more speed to get beside, and that was just a little more than the rear tires were willing to grip at that point in time. Opened the door for Harvick, who took the lead back.
And there you saw the old Smoky Unique colors, the 13 in the picture, but not a player at this time.
Yeah, Casey Mears struggling a little bit, but you can see just how that door opens. Harvick ready to pounce. Again, that's very reminiscent of what we watched David Pearson do here many, many times in winning 10 races at this racetrack.
Well, and Cale had some pretty exciting moments, because he won races back when you still had that turn where you had to shave the side of the car, and if you didn't shave it, you didn't get the haircut.
That's right. Yeah, Cale Yarborough is just one of the toughest competitors here. You know, I watched him. I had the opportunity to race against him here some. So he was just so tough to beat here.
Let's go down to Marty.
Well, Ken, all Friday activities here at the Darlington Raceway were canceled because of Hurricane Hermine. So the drivers and crews got an extra day at home. What did Joey Logano do with that extra day at home? His honeydew list. He hung up pictures. He changed light bulbs. He fixed things around the house. His wife, Brittany, said it was the best day ever because she actually had a husband around the house to do things. Joey says the balance pretty good, making some passes out there. Need a little bit of track position, though, to get up there and have a chance to win, Dave.
When I talked to Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s crew chief, Nick Sandler, today, he was afraid that they didn't have quite the speed they needed to win at Darlington, but they hoped to be able to maintain. Remember, Ricky got a great break when the caution came out, and he had not yet pitted earlier. Now, the cars, he said it feels like the tires are just gone, Marty.
Hey, we talked about Kurt Busch in the top 3 earlier, now running 13th. The car for much of this night way too loose. Now it's gone a little too tight, so they found the edge and gone over that for Kurt Busch, trying to get back to where they were earlier with that track position now too tight, Kelly.
Casey Kane and that 5 team in a must-win situation if they're going to get into that chase. May have gotten a little inspiration this week. Hendrick Motorsports invited Marcus Luttrell, the former Navy SEAL who wrote the book Lone Survivor, which became a movie, to come speak. Crew Chief Keith Rodden said if you had a heartbeat, you couldn't be but moved by what he had to say. It was very inspirational. Great message for us. Even when times are tough, you got to keep digging. This is team never quit, Dave.
Chris Busch is trying to have a solid night and maintain his 30th points position so that he can use that win from Pocono. He got a free pass earlier, which was a big bonus for him, but since the restart, he's lost 11 positions, a very loose race car. And also, all night long, crew chief Bob Osborne has been getting pretty frustrated. He has to have everything translated from his driver to him through spotter David Keith. Whatever Chris says, Bob has a real hard time picking up. Don't know how these radios work, but one gets him and one doesn't.
Remember that Bouchard, or Boucher, out of the Infinity Series, is in critical point in this race. He's got to have a good run if he intends to be around for that championship run at the end of the year. So we'll see what happens. Harvick in front, Keselowski in second. Harvick on the point, but the story right now is the number 6 car out here. We understand there is an issue for Trevor Bayne. Leaking oil, is that what we hear?
Well, we're hearing some reports from maybe some other drivers and spotters about that.
Don't see any smoke.
Oh, and on this racetrack, how can you tell? You slip and slide no matter what happens. They paved this thing the last time in 2008, and the drivers love it because you really do have to learn to skate. Let's join Rutledge for a moment.
Thanks, Ken. We know this track is iconic, but how about an icon of this sport right over my shoulder? Leonard Wood, who is in his original uniform. They started wearing those in 1973, a few updated logos. Glenn and Eddie Wood are actually wearing brand new pants that their dad had stored away in the attic, but you can't talk about Darlington without mentioning the iconic Wood brothers and what they've done here, guys.
No possible way. When they brought David Pearson back on the scene, it changed the whole history of American stock car racing like few others have ever done it. Of course, the Wood brothers were there. Well, my gracious, they were there before you were, Ned. Down at the track in Daytona on the beach, no less.
They were a team in the very first races of NASCAR.
The pride of Patrick County, Virginia. Great people. Battle for second place developing here. There you see that number 24. This Elliott kid looks like he has all the makings to go the distance. Don't you think, Dale?
Absolutely. He reminds me so much watching him of his dad, Bill, racing. Of course, Bill, a Hall of Famer and winner here of $1 million and winning that Winston Million. So he's just very, very good. So very talented. Almost won the race last week at Michigan. Doing a nice job here tonight.
Third place, Southern 500. Dad won it, what, 3 times? We'll be back with more in a moment. Ryan Blaney, the 21, who took the wave around, has pitted and come back on the track, and we're getting very close to another circulation through the pits in this field as we continue with the running of the incredible Southern 500. Back where it belongs. Darlington, South Carolina, Labor Day weekend. 161 of 367 laps complete. Only 2:06 remaining. It's really moving right along at a pretty exciting clip. And there you see Edwards in the 19. Let's go to Mike.
And Kenny's been saying he's really happy with the race car right now. Feels like it's very competitive. His only concern, he doesn't feel where the splitter is on the racetrack. They're going to make a chassis adjustment. Also a 4-tire change in Sunoco race fuel for Edwards. Last year's winner trying to repeat here in Darlington. He's been running inside the top 10, but still has some ground to gain here to get to the front. Dave?
Early in the run, Martin Truex Jr. reported that it was loosening up for some reason on the 78, and then later he reported it took off tight. Now it's too loose. I'm not sure what to do. Well, that's up to Cole Pearn. He'll give him 4 fresh tires with an air pressure adjustment and Sunoco fuel. Kelly.
Kyle Busch had been running 7th. He said he was really tight to start that last run. Stupid tight, in fact. So you see the chassis adjustment they made there. They're also going to give him 4 Goodyear tires, fill them up with Sunoco fuel, Marty.
Tony Stewart has had debris on his grill for much of this run. The team was pretty concerned about it, but Smoke said on the radio, I don't think it's hurting us temperature-wise too bad. Car hasn't been too bad for Tony Stewart, running in the top 12. Fairly happy with it. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment on here. Kevin Harvick, his teammate, coming down pit road. They said the car's a little bit too free, and on exit, that's where it's really hurting me. He said, need better drive off the corner. You see Kyle Larson speeding out of his pit stall. Harvick had to slow down just a little bit for that 42 car. You see the wedge wrench going in, trying to tighten up that 4 car for Evan Harvick, who was leading. Right behind him, Joey Logano. He said his car was building tight. He had made an air pressure adjustment inside, or actually a track bar adjustment inside the car. On this stop, they make an air pressure adjustment on those 4 fresh Goodyear tires.
Now Harvick came in running in 5th position, and out of the pits he travels. And let's go back to Marty.
Again, we saw Brad Keselowski get so loose on that run and lost the lead. He said, I need some rear grip bad to Paul Wolfe, his crew chief, way too loose. And he said he maxed out his track bar during that run. It was going away quick. You see the wedge adjustment and an air pressure adjustment as well, Kelly.
And Jamin McMurray in that 1 car said he was a little bit tight in 3 and 4 and struggled a bit in traffic, but overall pretty good. 4 tires for the 1.
Rotated him all the way up to the runner-up position for a moment. Back on the track, the number 31, who, if you're just joining us, started with a little imperfection, a slight problem that the inspectors didn't like, so he had to come out of the shotgun position, and he came hells a-poppin' at that time.
And Ken, it was an unapproved adjustment that put him at the back of the field. He's formed a pretty good run, making his way back to the front. You saw the 4-tire change, also a chassis adjustment. The car had been bad loose, and that run, they're trying to tighten him up now.
Number 6 has gone back behind the wall. Oh, that's unfortunate.
That's the car we're talking about.
Yep.
Possibly
oil, Trevor Bayne.
Some oil, and we finally sent him to the garage.
Yeah, I think he had gotten down on 7, maybe even 6 cylinders. So it looked like when he came in to the pits, a lot more smoke. So unfortunate for Trevor Bayne here tonight.
So Harvick has command of the event at the present time. And what an event this one is. Tremendous crowd here for tonight's program. Car number 4, 1.3 second lead over second place. Number 2 prior to those stops. Kelly?
Well, last year we saw Carl Edwards come back from 2 laps down to win this thing. Jimmy Johnson hoping he can do the same. He got 1 lap back by staying out under the last caution. Now just 1 lap down after serving a penalty. He has been working the track bar inside the cockpit. They've been giving him air pressure adjustments throughout the early stages of this race to help the handling of the 48. And you see they're going to give him 4 fresh tires for this next stint.
Ned, he reminds me so much of you. This guy, as he comes back out, Jimmy Johnson. I mean, he always seems to be under control. Doesn't just race, but he races under control.
Well, that's quite a compliment to put me in his category.
I was going to put it the other way around, fella.
Well, I do like his driving style, and very smart, and takes advantage of situations. And of course, his crew chief, Chad Knaus, has a lot to do with that too.
Let's go to Mike.
And guys, Greg Biffle's been looking for front and rear grip. A 4-tire change here. They'll also make an air pressure adjustment and a full load of Sunoco race fuel. Biffle, desperate need of a win if he hopes to make the playoffs. Has a lot of ground to make up right now.
Back underway. As we go through this rotation on pit road, car 31 back in a free pass position at the present time. So that's a break for sure for that fellow that needs a break at this point if he intends to be back in the championship run this year. Gentlemen, thank you both. Had a swell time. It's great to be back with you too. And we're getting ready to get back with Rick and Jeff and Steve Letarte.
It's been a real honor to be
fun?
back doing this. Again, thank you, NBC, for allowing us to come back and have fun and reminisce a little bit here.
At Darlington.
Yeah, highlight of my year each time we do this, gentlemen. You both have done so much for this sport. Thanks for allowing me to tag along with you and be right here and see how things are really done.
Well, we'll see about that. Okay, we're down to it again. 171 of 367 now in the books. It's a wide open contest to decide who's going to win this 500.
Take a look at the most laps led today. That's Kevin Harvick leading 130 and counting as he is out front, presented by Sprint. Sprint's network reliability now within 1% of Verizon. Switch today and save 50% on most Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile rates. Visit a Sprint store or sprint.com/network today. Kevin Harvick back out front after wrestling the lead away from Brad Keselowski. He has led now 131 laps. Keselowski has led 47. Chase Elliott running third, one of the drivers that is in that bubble position. The three drivers currently above the cut line: Chase Elliott, Jamie McMurray, and Austin Dillon. The guy that's just outside the cut line, Ryan Newman, a lap down, and now behind Ryan Blaney on the racetrack. Because Ryan Blaney is ahead of him, Ryan Newman not eligible for that free pass.
Yeah, we were riding along right there with Chase Elliott. What a turn of events. If you look back when Trevor Baynes spun, he was running 17th. What a great break. You know, lap 95 for that car got him all the way up to third. But I'm a little scared to talk after hearing those three legends on the broadcast. That it's going to take some poking and prodding to get me back involved, because what a
guys, what an honor. What an honor to be a part of the same broadcast as three of the greatest that have ever not only been a part of the sport, but have put headsets on and called the races. And so it is quite an honor to just be a part of what's going on here with NBC.
Yeah, truly three legends in this sport. I mean, you know, that word is probably used too much, but in this case, legends is an appropriate phrase.
And legendary 21 making his way to pit road, Kelly.
Yeah, problems there for Ryan Blaney. Many laps ago, he actually got into the fence in turn 3. He thought he saw some tire smoke. The team said they thought it looked okay. He came to pit road anyway. He was the first car to come to pit road during those green flag stops. They thought everything was okay there, but obviously now Ryan just reporting that he's got a flat tire, so now they will bring him back down. He has not had much luck here at the Lady in Black. This is going to cost him more track position, probably another lap.
Right here riding along with Ryan Blaney on the in-car coming down pit road. He was fighting. The wheel was moving 90 degrees in both directions, so he's definitely fighting that issue.
They're going to change 4 tires on the 21 because he comes into pit road. You would think that Newman would then be the lucky guy in the situation, but it's now Jeff Gordon as we watch him saw on the wheel. That's Ryan Newman trying to keep it straight.
Ryan Blaney.
Oh, excuse me, Ryan Blaney here at Darlington trying to keep it straight. I was mentioning Ryan Newman because it was Blaney that was in front of him for that free pass, but now Jeff Gordon has been put a lap down, and so Gordon now has the advantage of the free pass if a caution comes out.
And Rick, I know this is going to sound silly. Halfway. We're coming to halfway. We talk about racing the racetrack. Ryan Blaney, there you have it. That's what happens to rookies at the Lady in Black. Unbelievably, Chase Elliott, he won his first Xfinity start here. Doesn't seem like a rookie yet tonight, but we are only halfway. They got to continue to remember, you're not racing your competitors yet, are you, Jeff? You're still racing the racetrack.
Race the racetrack, still racing.
And as you mentioned, just past the halfway point. Let's go through the field, brought to you by Nationwide. We start with Marty.
Rick, just a dominant night for Kevin Harvick, leading 137 laps so far, out front once again. And when I talked to Rodney Childers this morning, he said, what makes Kevin so good here? He knows how to manage his car during a run. A good example earlier, he was back in the field, slowly worked his way back up to the front where he is now. Behind him, Brad Keselowski, he said last year in this race was one of the toughest losses they had in 2015. They had 196 laps and finished second. You never know what can happen at Darlington. Car a little bit better for him right now. Joey Logano a moment ago had a moment with Chase Elliott trying to track him down, and that team right now struggling with a car that builds a little bit tight the longer they run. Rick.
And the 88 has made his way onto pit road, so Jeff Gordon again was in front of Newman and was a lap down. Now he is on pit road service to that car. Mike.
And he's been complaining throughout the course of the night, looking for grip. This time, though, saying the car is very loose. They're making air pressure and chassis adjustment along with 4 tires. The car just has not been to Jeff's liking throughout the course of the day.
So Buescher is now the first car a lap down, and he is running 18th. Chase Elliott is running 4th. Dave.
Earlier tonight, Rick, we talked about, we would hear the word compromise a lot. When I talked to crew chief Alan Gustafson this morning, he said that they were going to compromise leaving turn 3 and 4 a little bit alone. He said it's a better place to pass, but turn 1 and 2 is treacherous. So that's where they spent their time. Right now, Chase is managing both sides of the track, Kelly.
What a difference a year makes for champion Kyle Busch. It wasn't until after this race last year that he got locked into the top 30 in points to make the chase. Remember, he missed 11 races. This time, second on the chase grid. Adam Stevens, the crew chief, says that's freed him up to try out new things and make him better prepared for the chase, Dave.
78 of Martin Truex could see the 11 of Denny Hamlin right there, the white car growing larger and larger in his mirror. So he started asking, well, where is he running? Higher and higher was the response. Sometimes you want to be a leader. At this track, sometimes you have to be a follower, even when you're in front of the other guy. As for the guy behind him, Denny Hamlin, his car was really loose on that last run. They made an adjustment that last time, and Hamlin has better control of it on this run. Mike?
I was able to have kind of a fun conversation with Matt Kenseth before the race about his iconic paint scheme. He brought up some key wins with his paint scheme. Darrell Waltrip's Daytona 500 in 1989, but most importantly, the 2003 win by Ricky Craven right here in Darlington. Perhaps one of the most exciting races here. Craven won by just 0.02 of a second at that particular point in time. Kenseth felt like he had a car capable of getting to the front, perhaps duplicating a finish like that. Right now, just fighting a loose condition. Meanwhile, his teammate, Carl Edwards, right behind him in a tribute paint scheme to Tony Stewart in his rookie season back in 1999. Edwards feeling like his car is also a little bit loose. His crew chief, Dave Rogers, told me they're experimenting today, trying to learn things for the playoffs. Marty?
Like last week, it was a restart at Michigan that won Kyle Larson the race. Tonight, the restart before this one, he said, that was the worst restart of my career. That's the reason they kind of fell back. They have since gained some positions, and Chad Johnson has been on him. Save your tires. He said, trust me, bud, I'm working on trying to save my tires and make them better. When everyone else is leaving all their good equipment back at home, Tony Stewart's team brought a brand new car to Darlington this weekend. Mike Bogaravich's crew chief told me Louis wanted to win Darlington for Tony desperately. That's why we brought our best stuff here, Rick.
Thanks, Marty. Great job going through the field as the 2 of Brad Keselowski has now made his way onto pit road, giving up a top 5 position there. Marty.
Keselowski coming in here, Rick, and a lot earlier than we expected, so we'll check on the exact reason for Brad Keselowski coming down pit road. He said the car had been extremely loose. That was one of the problems they were fighting. We'll go double check as to why they're pitting so soon.
Yeah, just about 30 laps since he was on pit road the last time. We talked about the pit cycle, or the pit length, would normally be around 63 to 65 laps, almost half of what we were expecting.
Yeah, we expect cars on pit road a little sooner than 63, but not at 30-something laps. So the 2 must have had a problem. We're going to have to come back and revisit exactly what that issue is.
3.8 seconds separating race leader Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano. So many drivers just trying to stay alive as they take on the Lady in Black. until NFL kickoff weekend on NBC Thursday, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, the Super Bowl sequel, Panthers and the Broncos. Then Sunday night, the Cardinals host the Patriots. And race leader Kevin Harvick has 3.3 seconds over Joey Logano now, as Brad Keselowski has fallen out of the top 2 for the first time all race. Marty?
He was running second, Rick, and coming across the start-finish line, he said the crew something might be wrong going through turn 3. Here's a conversation he had with Paul Wolfe.
I don't have much longer left here, Paul. Or go as long as you can. Just tell us when you're coming. When this lap, it's starting to push the brake pedal back.
And he came from turn 4 immediately, so not a lot of conversation. The team was ready, and they did find a loose left rear wheel. It lasted 27 laps into the run for Brad Keselowski and his team. Remember, they had a vibration a little bit earlier. The two were not related, though, so that was a loose left rear for Brad Keselowski, who's now fallen back into the field, Rick.
Yeah, and he is the first car a lap down. He's running 17th. Austin Dillon is the last car on the lead lap, running 16th.
And Rick, when he says it's going to push the brake pedal back, what basically happens is the wheel shakes so much that it takes the pads of the brake system and pushes them back in the caliper away from the rotor. So when you go to step on the brake pedal, you have to push the pads back up against the rotor. That's how you know as a driver, Jeff, it's severe and you need to make some decisions quickly.
Exactly. You have to pump the brake pedal to get the brake pads out to the rotor. It's the only way you can get them to work. So that's a big vibration when it's vibrating bad enough to push the brake pads away from the rotor.
Aric Almirola currently 22nd, scored 2 laps down. There are 5 cars that are 1 lap down. Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Ryan Newman, Jimmy Johnson, and Greg Biffle. And then from there back, it's at least 2 laps down. And what's happening is Kevin Harvick is putting a whipping on this whole field.
He really is. And, you know, he is starting. We saw this early in the year where he had a lot of speed, a little bit of a fall off in the summer. But as we approach the chase, wow, big moment right there. Got really loose. But as we approach the chase, this 4 and Kevin Harvick and this team, they are starting to show strength again, starting to show a lot of speed. You have to wonder if they're starting to bring out their newer cars, newer generation cars, something they can contend for the championship with.
Yeah, well, we saw it last week. Oh, it was
big hit for Brian Scott in the 44. The caution comes out again. Brian had issues getting out of turn 2 earlier.
Put up when I was trying to let him go inside of him, so he just wrecked us on the straightaway.
Great opportunity for Brad Keselowski, who was the first car scored a lap down, to get back on the lead lap after that loose wheel.
The first incident we saw, it seemed like Brian Scott and the 13 got together. We'll see right. This is exiting turn 2. Gets really narrow right there. You see Tony Stewart get loose. Might make contact with the left rear of Brian Scott. It's hard to see.
Well, he did right there.
Well, he definitely made contact with the 44 right there.
Wow,
no question about that.
Yeah, I don't know if Tony was mad because he came off the corner side by side, or if he's going to say he misjudged that, but it looks like Tony was not happy.
And that puts the 44 into the wall and now behind the wall.
Back at Darlington Raceway, the leaders are hitting pit road. Chase Elliott pitting from the 3rd position. He said, you can't make the nose any tighter on this race car, but it is pretty good right here. As for the 11 of Denny Hamlin, the car was so good that time, passed 4 cars on the racetrack. They'll make no adjustments on the 11.
Dave Joey Logano pitting at the very front end of pit road. He said in clean air, the car's been too free. In traffic, it's too tight. He has that clean air for really the first time all night long in the top 3. Kevin Harvick right beside him said the car still building free for Harvick. The longer they run, Harvick will win the race off pit road with 4 fresh Goodyear tires and an air pressure adjustment, Rick.
Yeah, take a look at the race off of pit road. Kyle Busch gains a couple spots. Chase Elliott loses a few.
That's all.
Welcome back to the Bojangles Southern 500. The 3rd caution has come out. It was the 44 of Brian Scott getting into the wall. Looked as though he may have got a little help.
He definitely got a little help. This is exiting turn 2. Tony Stewart on the lead lap. Brian Scott 4 laps down. You see Brian doesn't concede the spot. He has every right to race Tony Stewart off the corner. Tony gets loose. It looks to me like Tony's frustrated. It's hard to defend the 3-time champion at car control. I don't think he misjudged it. I think he just basically took his frustration out on Brian Scott.
Yes, one of 2 things. Either misjudged it, which is at this point in the racetrack, it's really no excuse for misjudging it, something like that, or he got upset thinking Scott should have given him the space and ended up getting into Brian Scott. So either way, certainly on Tony Stewart's shoulders.
Tony Stewart running 11th. He's still on the lead lap. 17 on the lead lap, including Brad Keselowski, now back on the lead lap. NASCAR Drive is NASCAR.com's live race day companion. You can select your in-car video or camera angle, access integrated driver stats, lap-by-lap commentary, and social conversation all in real time. You won't miss a lap when you visit NASCAR.com/drive on your personal computer now. Mike?
And catching up with Brian Scott now in the garage. A lot going on there. What's your interpretation of what happened?
We were just in a bad situation. We were at the very end of a run. Our tires were really gone. I was slipping and sliding a lot. I was trying to let those guys go that had newer, fresher tires. I was trying to let Tony go there, and I think he got inside of me and got loose there. Then I was still trying to point him to the inside to let him go, but apparently he got mad with me. I just want to thank Twisted Tea, Ford, Albertson, Shore Lodge, everybody that came on board. I got a lot of respect for Tony. He's always raced me really clean. I'm not sure what he thought was going on there. I'm not sure if he thought I was trying to hold him up. I wasn't. I was trying to let him go, and even pointed him to the inside. Maybe he thought I was giving him the finger or something. I'll talk with him. We'll figure it out. I hate it. You know, it was a tough race. Southern 500's a tough race. Everybody's slipping and sliding a lot, and it's getting to the point where people's tempers are getting short.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Ryan Scott, obviously a pretty candid explanation of what he thought happened.
Absolutely, and just to put a period on the story, NASCAR has asked for driver and crew chief of the 14 to meet them in the NASCAR hauler at the conclusion of the race.
I thought Brian Scott did an admirable job in this interview of telling his side of the story, but doing it respectfully, because, you know, you see right here.
Clear, all clear.
Pictures tell the tale.
And so once again, we're 2 by 2 getting ready for the restart. Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano will make up row number 1. Harvick has chose the inside line once again. Logano will restart on the outside. And Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr. as they enter the restart zone. And a great start for Harvick once again.
Yes, it was. That was a great start.
Wow. Harvick checking out. And it's Kyle Busch who's moved up to second now. Also a great restart for Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have a kind of a new player at the fray. We haven't seen Kyle Busch in that bright green Interstate Batteries Toyota towards the top 2. He's run well, run in the top 10 most of the night, but he's worked his way up into the top 2.
And it's the 2 other people we haven't talked much about tonight, Denny Hamlin and Matt Kenseth. This is the kind of race you expect those guys to run well in. With 156 laps to go, this is the time of race you start to see these guys come. So they've got the track position they need. Now let's see if they have the cars that are fast enough.
Say that, but once again, I'm going to talk about that yellow and black 24 of Chase Elliott, driving like a veteran. Harvick, Busch, Logano, Elliott, Hamlin, Kenseth, Truex. Think of the veterans around him. This young man in his first season of NASCAR is up here in one of the toughest races running with all these veterans.
Yeah, that's right. And people get down on him because he's down on himself sometimes. You know, he's critical of himself. We saw it last week at the end of the Michigan race when he messed up on that last restart. It doesn't bother his confidence. He's just straightforward and says, I need to be better. He still gets in the race car and drives it hard and drives it very, very fast and very smartly too. So don't take getting down on himself as being weak or not strong. It's actually a sign of strength. I admire him for doing it.
His maturity is definitely well beyond his years as we look at the chase bubble on the left side of the screen. And again, the 24 of Chase Elliott, currently the best of the points, as the 48 goes around. Jimmy Johnson spinning and bringing out the caution.
And a big thing with that coming out, Ryan Newman was the first car lap down, so that's going to let him get back in the lead lap.
The 48, we talked all weekend. We thought this 48 had speed. They felt good about his race car. Got behind with that pit road penalty for body modifications. This is coming off turn 4, just flat loses the race. You want to know how difficult Darlington is? That's a 6-time champion right there that just lost his race car underneath Carl Edwards.
A 3-time winner of the races here at Darlington. He was running 19th, second car that was 1 lap down. So fighting to try to get back on the lead lap. And some damage to the 48s.
Yeah, you can see he's on the apron. Look how far he's on the apron. So as he starts to get back on the racetrack, and we see cars using the apron all night long, but that transition of no banking to grabbing up on the banking, it's easy for a car to get loose. And you saw how quickly the car came around.
And really, this is 2 weeks in a row. You know, we've documented that the Hendrick Motorsports cars haven't been as fast as they've wanted to be. But at Michigan a week ago, this 48 had speed, had a pit road issue. Today, or really all weekend at Darlington, this 48 has seemed to have had some speed, but they had a pit road penalty for body modification. So it seems like they found a little speed in their car, but now the execution isn't there for this 48 team.
Pit road is open as there's pretty extensive damage to the front end of the 48. So it will take some work to get that ready to go back onto the racetrack.
It's going to be interesting. It's a really short run right here. Who's going to come and get tires? Kyle Larson's going to come off. He thinks he can use a set, and it brings the whole field behind him. So for about the 7th or 8th position on back have come to pit road.
Only 17 cars on the lead lap, so if you're a 10th on back, not a big loss for coming in and putting on tires. Mike.
Carl Edwards on pit road. The last time down was a bit of an adventure. They tried to put a spring rubber in the left rear and had some difficulty doing it. Kept him on pit road quite a bit of time. And Carl had a radio in to find out whether or not they actually got it done. They did execute it. Here, a 4-tire change and a wedge adjustment on the right side.
Marty? Chad Johnson's been making the calls all day long to come early to pit road. Here he's the first car to come to pit road. Going to be very interesting how this is split up and if these tires will pay dividends for these guys who come to pit road. Just an air pressure adjustment for Kyle Larson. That's it. Carbon a little bit too free, Rick.
Thanks, Marty. Jimmy Johnson was definitely holding on loosely as he came out of turn 4. NASCAR on NBC is brought to you by STP. Get ultra performance with STP Ultra 5-in-1 fuel system cleaner. Ford, we go further so you can. Bank of America, life's better when we're connected. And by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. What an incredible crowd on hand for this, the 67th running of the Southern 500 from the track Too Tough to Tame. You take a look at the top, the press box, that is the spotter stand. And the restart about to get underway.
You see how narrow it is to getting up into turn 1 on these restarts. That's not just the driver's decision on how do you let a car go or how hard do you race another car into turn 1. That spotter has got to help these drivers understanding what their situation is. They enter narrows turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, we're thinking about the Southern 500 and all the history. You know, spotters weren't required. You know, when this race started, spotters, you know, really weren't required until 1990. So a big change from the inaugural Southern 500.
2x2 once again. This will be an interesting restart because Kyle Busch is so good at restarts. He'll be on the outside of Kevin Harvick, who was phenomenal on the last restart.
But I'm going to be looking a few rows back at Kyle Larson with those 4 fresh Goodyear tires, Rick.
Back in the restart zone. Green flag back in the air. Another great restart for Kevin Harvick. This time he brings Joey Logano along with him. Kyle Busch loses a spot, drops back to 3rd.
You see Kyle Larson right there go to the bottom of the screen, trying to run basically the apron in 3 and 4, trying to use those tires as soon as possible.
They used to say when you would roll the car through either here or Rockingham, even rolling it through the garage, you would put a cycle on the tires. It's so rough here.
And it hasn't been like that, Rick. Remember, they repaved this racetrack in 2008. And it's just aged more and more every year, and it really strikes me as coming back to that old Darlington we're used to. It just seems like we see 2 seconds of fall off in 25 or 30 laps on these tires.
Kyle Larson trying to get all the good out of the Goodyears that they just put on under this last pit stop. Chasing after 27, Paul Menard, as well as the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. just in front of him.
And how about Paul Menard running in the 8th position? Remember, starting last in this race today, recovering all the way back up, running inside the top 10. Probably the most unique paint scheme. That paint scheme right there, Al Unser Jr., Daytona 500, crashed in a qualifying race, never even took the green flag.
And Steve Alonso Jr. actually here with Paul Menard this weekend. Right in front of him, Kyle Larson has already gone by. Chad Johnson came on the radio and said, hey, bud, I know we lost 2 spots by taking on those 4 fresh Goodyear tires. He's already gained those 2 plus 1 more. Interesting, just 4 green flag laps. And the other guys have on their tires, you see the difference for Kyle Larson.
Battle for second continuing between the 22 and 18. Joey Logano was able to get the second spot away from Kyle Busch on the restart. Now Kyle Busch trying to fight back.
And it's been an up and down race for Kyle Busch in that 18 car. At times the car fires off well, but then he loses a lot of grip. Right now he's saying it's the best that it's been as far as hanging on after that initial speed. As you see, he's trying to make the pass there. He goes underneath Joey Logano to get back into the second position. This team looking for momentum. His crew chief Adam Stevens telling me he thinks the team that goes into the chase off a string of top 5 finishes has a leg up on the rest of the field. Rick?
And as far as manufacturers go, right now it's Chevrolet, Toyota, Ford. 1, 2, 3.
We talk a lot about racing the racetrack and understanding that the racetrack is your enemy here at this tough racetrack. Look, Joey Logano's got his hand out the window, letting Kyle Busch know, look, go ahead and go. You're quicker than me. I am not going to push my car faster than I need to with 144 laps to go. So that, when you talk about racing the racetrack, that's a great example.
Joey Logano trying to save his equipment. Not running as hard right now as Kyle Busch. But how about right behind Joey Logano is Chase Elliott. Once again, this young driver has been able to really look like a veteran on such a historic racetrack that's so difficult for so many.
But he found that comfort here right away, Rick. Remember, his first Xfinity start ever. He wins the Xfinity race here. We talk about the lady in back and the difficulty of this racetrack, but this young man just seems to race beyond his years, much like his father. Very calm on the radio, just seems to really understand the goal of all 500 miles.
Chase Elliott's father, Bill Elliott, a Hall of Famer that's on hand for the race tonight, as about 16 or 17 other Hall of Famers that are here for this throwback weekend. Chase Elliott, just a 20-year-old out of Dawsonville, Georgia. Dave.
You see the white and red car there of Denny Hamlin for Joe Gibbs Racing. When I talked to his crew chief Mike Wheeler earlier today about how happy Denny might be with the car, he said it was a 9 out of 10, but we didn't kill ourselves trying to get that last 10th because we knew that the track would change and we would need to change with it. Mike?
Speaking of changing, I spoke with Matt Kenseth's crew chief Jason Radcliffe this morning, and he told me the biggest challenge he'll face here tonight is keeping up with the swings and the balance of this racetrack. Kenseth told me before he climbed aboard the car, he felt like the car would get loose as the night wore on. That's been exactly the truth. The other thing, the team wants him to be very aggressive on restarts. That's what he's been trying to do, although he lost a spot in that last restart. Meanwhile, his teammate Carl Edwards, a guy who won here 1 year ago, had a moment not too long ago when Jimmie Johnson got very loose and spun just on the inside of him. It certainly got Carl's attention.
Well, thank you for not wrecking me. I appreciate that. Seriously. Just make sure you tell the 48 guys what I said. He just pull it down and stay off you. Yeah, he could have clobbered him. Say we're even for the qualifying issue.
Just goes to show you how these drivers do keep score as the season goes on. That definitely is an incident that Carl will remember for some time, don't you think, Rick?
Absolutely, and he was already thinking back to when he pulled out in front of the 48s, and now you're seeing where the 48 pulled out in front of him in qualifying.
Yeah, the 48, he was loose right there, and to keep from being loose, you have to quit turning the wheel. But with the car on the outside of you, you can't do that. So what he's referring to is Jimmie Johnson easily could have just not put as much wheel into it and gotten up the racetrack and gotten into the side of the 19, trying to keep from spinning out. So he recognized that and appreciated that. As he talked about, the 48 team made a mistake a few weeks ago, pulled out in front of the 19, cost him a good qualifying opportunity. Drivers never forget. You know, they never forget the good and the bad.
Yeah, it was Michigan, and we see right here, Carl Edwards is on a qualifying run at the fastest racetrack we go to. It's all about aerodynamics, clean air, and downforce, and the 48 of Jimmie Johnson pulls out to get his qualifying run started. You see how basically in the way Jimmie Johnson was. It cost Carl Edwards an extra run on the racetrack. They discussed it afterwards, but you could tell even though it looked okay, it was still on Carl Edwards' mind tonight.
It was uncomfortable then, but it looks as though Carl Edwards said everything's paid back. Kevin Harvick still out front at Darlington. From the creators of Supernatural and The Shield, one team must defend the past to save our future. Timeless premieres Monday, October 3rd on NBC. Welcome back to the Southern 500. Things getting a little tight here between Casey Mears, And a good battle between the 42 of Kyle Larson and the 11 of Denny Hamlin. That is a fight for the 5th position.
We're starting to see this 42 of Larson every week, starting to put himself in position to win races. Obviously, he finished it off last week and got his first win, but that's what it takes, Steve. You have to be in position to win races consistently to get your wins.
And another battle going on the track, this time once again for that 2nd spot. Joey Logano earlier let the 18 of Kyle Busch by, and now has taken the spot, well, almost has taken the spot back, as the 18 fighting back on the outside, but Joey Logano makes the pass.
And all I see is, I know that that's a Bobby Labonte throwback and a Dale Jarrett throwback, but all I see is Bobby Labonte driving a Pontiac, because those are what those 2 paint schemes remind me of. That is a Ford and that is a Toyota, but those are, we talk about throwback schemes, they're throwing back, that's my era, Rick. They're throwing back to my era right there.
All right. I see nightmares because I ran behind those 2 cars a lot.
A guy who's trying to move his way up to the front is Martin Truex Jr., currently in the 8th spot, Dave.
And Rick, this track can make you crazy. Here's Martin losing his mind.
Tight loose. Yeah, 10-4, we're working on a plan. We're just trying to get a situation here.
Crew Chief Cole Pearn trying to keep him calm, and guess what happened 2 laps later? We have a monitor down here where we can see who runs the fastest laps. He ran the fastest lap of all 40 cars.
I loved the reaction of Cole Pearn. It was pretty animated, wasn't it? He's like, yeah, we're working up a plan. I love it.
We got it.
As Kyle Busch loses another spot, this time to Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott up to 3rd now. But everyone continuing to chase Kevin Harvick. Harvick, who has been out front for 193 laps, and it was on lap 193 that Kevin Harvick passed the 10,000 laps led mark, and he joined 6 other active drivers that have done that. Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, Kyle Busch, and Matt Kenseth all have gone over 10,000 laps led, and now Kevin Harvick puts his name on that list as well.
Seems like a pretty good list to be on right there. He's led a lot of laps tonight because only 2 drivers have led. Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski have led all the laps this evening.
Here comes the 42 of Kyle Larson. Again, Larson a little fresher tires. Marty?
Rick, I guess those 4-lap fresher tires working for Kyle Larson. Remember, restarted 11th, trying to pass Kyle Busch for the 4th position right now, and using that high line pretty much all the way around the racetrack. You guys talked about how good the 42 team has been lately. Chad Johnson told me the key has been, as he gets that position from Kyle Busch, unloading close. Last week, he said it was the smoothest weekend they had all year long. But today, this weekend, probably even better than last weekend at Michigan. Clearly running fast right now up in the 4th spot, Rick.
And Rick, remember, this championship will be won in the bracket style racing. Every 3 races will eliminate some drivers, counting all the way down to Homestead, where 4 drivers will race for a championship. I do believe if Kyle Larson could put good races together in advance, much like this racetrack we see right here, where Kyle Larson is running right along the wall, right at the top of the racetrack. That's the same thing he does at Homestead, and makes so much speed being able to do that. Almost got the win there last fall. So I think if the 42 can make it to Homestead with a chance, he could be a championship contender.
Easily getting by Josh Wise in the 30. And just moments ago, we were listening into the radio for Kyle Busch. This is what he had to say.
Check it out, Brad. Check out that right front. I don't think there's anything wrong with the back, but did you see it?
Yeah, no, back's just barely scuffed. Goodyear's still on it. Right front, Goodyear gone.
Got good shape in the fender on TV. Everything looks fine. Everything's fine.
And that was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less. Kyle Busch might be a little bit worried, as he was up running 2nd, now has fallen all the way back to 5th.
We watch Kevin Harvick go around the racetrack. We just showed Kyle Larson right against the wall. Look where Kevin Harvick is.
Right.
He is a car width lower in the middle of the corner than where Larson is, and it's a very unconventional line. And at this racetrack, the only place to run for years and forever is right on the bottom, and he has all 4 tires on the apron, and not because he's passing somebody, because that's where he wants to be. That's where he's had his car all night. So again, watch as he enters turn 1. Drops on the apron, getting into the corner, and now he never goes to the wall. He is a car width lower than some other cars are.
What I like about it is you talk about the dangers of Darlington. Car length off the wall helps a lot.
Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, the top three at Darlington. Welcome back. Fifth caution has come out at Darlington, and it's for the 32 of Jeffrey Earnhardt, the 27-year-old out of Mooresville, North Carolina. Looked as though he was almost stopped at the high part of the turns in 3 and 4, up into the wall there.
It's in the wall right here, and look at Matt Kenseth coming. Oh, that's not Matt Kenseth. I'm sorry. All these paint schemes.
Exactly. Josh Wise probably in the orange car that went by him.
You had me at Matt Kenseth.
And once again, lead lap cars on their way to you, Dave.
Chase Elliott will give up third position, Rick, to get 4 fresh tires and another load of Sunoco fuel. He said the car was bad in traffic, little tight, little loose, but not that bad.
And Dave, Kyle Larson, top right of your screen, running up into the top 4 on that run. He says it's a little bit free the longer he ran, and he made a track bar adjustment inside the car. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment on his 4 Goodyear tires when he does indeed stop. For Joey Logano, he said that's the freest he had been all race long. Running in the second position, they too are going to make an air pressure adjustment, trying to tighten up that car. Kevin Harvick said the car was about the same, a little too free at the end of the run. He told Rodney Childers, make the same adjustment you made last time on those 4 Goodyear tires. That would be an air pressure adjustment as well. Harvick's going to not win the race off pit road this time, Rick.
How about that? The race off of pit road won by Denny Hamlin. Makes up 4 spots. Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, the top 3 off of pit road as Foghat takes us to break.
1975, Ford was leading, not in NASCAR races, but in the White House. I can hear it now. We're going to need a bigger boat. Steven Spielberg's Jaws hit the box office as the highest grossing film. The pet rock fad took the U.S. by storm as well. Saturday Night Live debuted on NBC. And Bobby Allison swept Darlington in the famed AMC Matador for Roger Penske.
And on this throwback weekend, we're celebrating the years 1975 through 1984. A very impressive decade for Darlington Raceway. Tonight's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. As it's a beautiful sight to see the moon at a racetrack, or the sun. We have been plagued by rain pretty much since Daytona, but it has been 2 beautiful days and nights of racing. From Darlington, a bad pit stop for the 4 relegates Kevin Harvick all the way back to 5th. Take a look.
Yeah, you watch the jack goes up, everything seems pretty smooth when the tires come off, but a little bit slow right here, getting the right front tire onto the hub, then slow again, hitting the lug nuts. While that doesn't seem like a chunk of time, that's all it takes to go from 1st to 5th on pit road.
This team's had a lot of issues on pit road. They've got to clean it up before this chase starts.
And guys, the same exact problem for Joey Logano just in front of him. He lost 4 spots on pit road for a right front too. But yeah, that's been a problem for the Ford team for Kevin Harvick all season long. They also had that happen to them at Bristol. And Steve, you know, as a crew chief, it's something you want to clean up before the chase. Just 2 races left in the regular season. You cannot afford that in the postseason.
Well, Marty, we saw last year this 4-car and Kevin Harvick go into the first round in a must-win situation at Dover and pulled off that win. They want to try to avoid that fate this year, not put themselves in that position. Slow pit stops is one thing that can hurt you throughout the chase.
And Levin had a very impressive pit stop, 11.6 seconds for Denny Hamlin. That's why he's out front. How about Chase Elliott running second? So he will be up on the front row and get another chance to work on those restarts, which really caught him by surprise at Michigan when he wasn't able to outrun the 20 or the 42 of Kyle Larson and get the win.
Yeah, we've seen all night the outside has not been when you want to be on the restart. It's hard to get going. It's like the rear tires spin more on the outside. We saw it in the Xfinity race also yesterday. So Chase Elliott, if he can break even with Denny Hamlin right here, that would be a gain.
One other benefit for the 88 team, they receive the free pass back on the lead lap, back into the restart zone, and back under green.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that restart.
Kyle Busch taking advantage of that lower line, trying to clear the 24 as they go through 1 and 2. Here comes Chase Elliott once again on the high side. not willing to give up that second spot. He fights back and keeps it.
That's as good as you can do from the outside from what I've seen so far this weekend. To beat the leader on the inside will take an heroic act. It's going to be hard to do. Look at Kevin Harvick on the outside.
Harvick making the move on the high side, trying to take away that third spot from Kyle Busch.
Might end up losing the fourth spot. He's going to contest the position into turn 1, though, and hold off the 22 of Joey Logano.
Here comes Kyle Larson behind him in the 42. Kyle Larson, after a very emotional win from 1 week ago at Michigan, got his first career win in NASCAR, and now running in the top 5 here at Darlington.
And when that last caution came out, that put JV as the first car lap down, Jeff Gordon. So now Jeff Gordon is back in the lead lap.
Jeff Gordon running 19 cars on the lead lap. The first car scored a lap down, Greg Biffle. Chris Buescher also a lap down, running 21st. Chris Buescher still trying to stay in the top 30 in points. He's running, as I mentioned, in 21st, and David Reagan's running 27th. Every position is a point.
Again, we see Kyle Larson try to come back into the mix. You've mentioned it, Jeff. It seems like his car's been better on longer runs tonight. Maybe they've made some adjustments. It seems like he has a little more speed earlier in this run than he did the run before.
Here comes Chase Elliott fighting for the lead with Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin in practice worked that outside line in 3 and 4, primarily focused running up there.
You won't stay with him. Great exit off 2.
A week ago, it was Chase Elliott's race to win, and ended up not having the restart that he wanted, and he felt like he let that win slip away from him, got out of his fingers. Now he's in an opportunity where he could take away the lead from Denny Hamlin, a veteran, a winner at this racetrack, and running a very low line, trying to take that top spot back.
And you talk about passing the torch in the sport. The 24 car racing for the lead at Darlington, not with Jeff Gordon behind the wheel, but Chase Elliott.
The youth of the sport, Chase Elliott, again, just 20 years old. Hall of Fame father Bill Elliott, numerous times a winner of the Southern 500. And the caution has come out once again. And it was a 16 of Greg Biffle that got into the wall. You see the damage to the right side of that car.
Heavy damage to the right side. That's a little heavier than a Darlington stripe.
You know what, still, or is 34 good bias? No, 34 was about front bias there, depending on the last.
Oh, buddy, I don't know if it matters if you were the lucky dog as hard as you hit the wall. We see right here. That's a big moment. Real loose into the corner. Heavy damage. You see how much of that deck lid is broken loose and moved to the left. That's going to take some heavy repairs, Rick.
The other rule, though, that comes into play is if you bring out the caution, you're not eligible for the lucky dog. So even though he was asking if he was in front,
Clear low, come on, low, come on.
He was the reason for the caution to come out. So he would not be eligible for that lucky dog, even if he was the first car scored a lap down.
I don't think he could take advantage of it, even if he was the lucky dog. It's so much damage, as Steve mentioned. That's a hard impact. You know, we talked about the Darlington stripe. That is not a Darlington stripe. That's a Darlington wreck.
And the 34 was in front of the 16 when the caution came out, and so that means that Chris Buescher will receive the free pass. And Denny Hamlin's going to bring the field behind him onto pit road, Dave.
Rick, what is going to make these cars better? Something for Chase Elliott to get him by Denny Hamlin. A good pit stop will help. Chase was pretty good on that run there. They said get the 4 tires and fuel. As for Denny Hamlin, a little loose coming down the hill. They'll make an adjustment for that.
Kyle Busch in that green 18 car gained 4 spots last time down pit road due to a quick stop. It's only been 5 green laps, he said. So far, so good. It looks like they're going to give him 4 Goodyear tires for Kyle Busch, Marty.
Kelly Rodney Childers told his pit crew, just like Bristol guys, blow it off, referring to a bad stop they had that night. They came back to win the race that evening. 4 Goodyear tires for Kevin Harvick and no changes to the chassis.
And the race off pit road, looks as though Kevin Harvick's going to come off third, gaining a spot. Denny Hamlin didn't take any positions away from him. Definitely need to watch NASCAR America. It's weekdays on NBCSN at 6 p.m. Eastern. This week, Hall of Famer Mark Martin is going to visit Burton's Garage. That'll be on Tuesday and Wednesday. Denny Hamlin will be visiting as well.
It's always good to have guests in Burton's Garage.
I agree.
And I'm going to be
a Hall of Famer like Mark Martin.
And I'll be up in Connecticut with Denny up in the studio. It's going to be great to have him on.
Marty.
You guys, Tony Stewart and his team came in. They've had a problem that the grill is giving them an issue. It can't get enough air to the engine. It's been overheating. They had debris on the grill earlier, but for some reason they just can't get it clean. So they literally came in and cut away part of the front of that race car, trying to get some air into that 14 car. They've been running in the top 12 for the entire evening. Can't quite see in there where that grill is gone, but they did cut a piece of that grill out of Tony Stewart's 14 car.
Well, the problem you have, Rick, when you open up the grill to let air in, you also let air in or let all the rubber in. And once that rubber packs the radiator, it doesn't matter how well you think you're cooling the car. Once the radiator is full of rubber, it's not going to do any cooling. This car will continue to overheat.
One of two tracks that he has not won at. Now, Matt Kenseth, Kurt Busch, they stayed out, so they are 1-2. Matt Kenseth has chose the inside line. Kurt Busch on the outside. Kurt Busch might be having flashbacks to the last time he was side by side with a Tide car. It was at this racetrack back in 2003. Ricky Craven running that Tide scheme. And back to fourth already is Kurt Busch. Again, older tires for Kenseth as well as Kurt Busch.
And Rick, Kenseth in that 20 was running 14th, so I don't think he expects to hold off Hamlin, but if this can go a little bit in green, he can only fall back into the top 5, top 6. That's a net gain on track position. That's the strategy that both the 20 and the 41 are trying to play, but you see instantly how much it means to be out front. The 20 and Matt Kenseth doing a great job, but the 41 under fire all the way back in the 6th position right now.
78 bottoming out. A lot of sparks coming out of that car as this racetrack cools down. It also gains grip and gets faster, so the cars will travel more and start bottoming out. And guess what, Rick? 100 to go. That's the mental note for the drivers. It's time to get rolling. Something about 100 to go in it, Steve. It just reminds you, okay, we're getting ready to try to win this race right now.
Last year, 18 cautions. So far tonight, 6. For some reason, I don't think we're going to end with 6.
And remember, this is a 500-mile race, 367 laps. The initial green flag coming out way back about 6:30, 6:20 for the initial green flag. So it's been a long time that these guys have already been on track. And as you mentioned, Jeff, 100 laps to go from Darlington.
And here comes Harvick, a lot of speed. Obviously, we saw the pit crew a few pit stops ago make a mistake, not have a good pit stop, lost him the lead. That time they had a really good pit stop, actually gained spots. So now if he can take the lead, it's all good. Everything's good, but from now on, they have to continue to have those good pit stops.
Rick, you mentioned how long this race is. I really feel it comes to a point where driver fitness is going to come into play, Jeff. These have been a challenging 269 laps that they have run. So not just mentally, but physically as well. These cars are not easy to drive.
Almost 3 hours of racing already. 6 cautions has slowed the pace down for just a bit. Matt Kenseth still trying to hold off the 4 of Kevin Harvick, as you see Kyle Larson getting by the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. And there's the gap between 1 and 2. Matt Kenseth leading, again using strategy, staying out under the most recent caution.
And looking like a smart move right now. Again, you mentioned it, Steve. It's not necessarily they want to lead the race. They want to lead as many laps as they can, but the whole idea here is to, when the next time you pit, to have gained spots by using this strategy. And right now, it's looking like a very smart move.
We've seen Harvick run so low through the turns, and once again he does it as he goes through 3 and 4 and back to the front stretch.
And this is where it could be a really big advantage as you approach turn 1. He's going to run lower. He heard the car bottom out. He's going to run lower. So Kenseth get loose, open up the opportunity. Harvick smartly says now's not the time. He knows that it gets very tight off of turn 2. Did not take advantage. He knows he has a faster car. No need to push the issue right now.
And he's going to take the lead away from the 20 down on the bottom of the racetrack through 3 and 4. But the 20 fights back coming off of turn 4. He stays out front.
And see what that does, though. As the 20 holds up, Kevin Harvick right behind him. It's allowed Denny Hamlin to catch up. It's brought the 24 Chase Elliott into the mix. It's Kevin Harvick. He's trying to be patient, Jeff, but he sees those other cars coming in the mirror.
Yeah, that's not the patience you'll show when you get to 25, 30 to go. But right now, with the fastest car, sometimes using your brain rather than just your right foot is the thing to do, and that's what he did in that case. He knew he was faster than Kenseth. He knew eventually he'd make that pass. Smart race car driving by Kevin Harvick. And we'll see how quickly the 11 will get by the 20. Those two are teammates. So will Matt Kenseth cut the 11 a little bit of a break as they go through 1 and 2, and coming out of 2, Denny Hamlin easily by the 20.
And this is the issue. This is why the 20 had to fight so hard for the lead, because now that the 4 has got by and the 11 disposes of him very quickly. The 24, Chase Elliott, 42 of Kyle Larson.
They're going to try to get by as well. And the 20 is going to make it a little bit harder on those guys. NASCAR is letting the 16 know that they need to come back to pit road. Again, the 16 into the wall pretty hard just recently. Matt Kenseth, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson.
Oh, Kyle Larson squeezes on the right rear quarter panel of Chase Elliott.
That's an aggressive move. We saw him take the lead yesterday in the Xfinity race like that.
3rd, 4th, and 5th running together. And now Kyle Larson has taken 4th away from the 24 of Chase Elliott, looking for 3rd for Matt Kenseth.
Jeff, when you said 100 to go was a mental spot for the drivers, I didn't know it was a switch, but it must be. We have seen the racing intensify here in the last 6 or 7 laps.
Take a look at this moments ago between the 2 of Brad Keselowski and the 18 of Kyle Busch. Little shove. Kyle Busch keeps it straight though, but Keselowski gets by. So there was a switch.
It's all about positioning, Rick. If you wait too long, it doesn't matter how good your car is. It's very difficult to win from the 3rd, 4th, or 5th row in the closing laps, and all of these drivers know it.
All right, let's listen in to the 2 of Brad Keselowski, what he had to say.
I think I even touched him. All good, man. It's racing. Let's go. Wasn't intentional.
Did he say he didn't think he touched him?
Yeah, he said he didn't think he even touched him.
He did.
And he'll realize that, I'm sure, after the race, when either Kyle Busch will come and chat with him about that, or he'll see the coverage.
Yeah, but you know, incidences like that, I think a lot of people watch racing and are like, oh, he just hit him, knocked him out of the way. You know, Kyle Busch had an issue. He got out of the throttle. Keselowski just didn't time it right, misjudged it, and got into the back of him. It wasn't like he just drove in there and said, I'm going to knock you out of the way. Now, that might be coming as we get toward the end of the race, but that's not what that was.
Well, it's simple, Jeff. You came and watched my son race a couple weeks ago. What was the advice you gave him? You have to catch him before you can pass him. You can't pass a car from 2 car lengths back. These drivers know they have to get right to the rear bumper of the car in front of them, and that's how that contact's made. The 2 of Brad Keselowski is trying to get a run on the 18, and it's easy to miss time.
And you see how far back now Matt Kenseth has fallen after being out front. Kevin Harvick, the race leader for the Southern 500, and it looks like an issue coming off of turn number 2. The 47 of A.J. Allmendinger into the wall.
Don't see any damage on the left side.
Well, the right side's pretty damaged.
Well, I don't know. I think it might be flat tires. It's hard to say. As many times as they hit the wall at Darlington.
Got flat here.
He said he didn't hit anything, but
didn't hit anything that time, maybe.
Yeah, at some point in time, he has hit the wall because there's damage to the right side of this car, and definitely a right front is down.
It's underneath the 21. Just a little bit of contact. Oh, the 21 got in the wall.
Yep.
That's just a tough place. We talked about just a while ago, we saw Kevin Harvick not make a pass when perhaps he could have. That's why. That's how narrow the exit of that corner is. That's why he was able to make that decision. These 2 guys back here racing for position were not able to use that discretion that Kevin Harvick was able to use.
And with this caution coming out, does that benefit the 2 guys who stayed up front early in this run?
Well, we had 1 winner and 1 loser. As you take one more look at the crash right there, the 41 of Kurt Busch couldn't keep his track position. He fell back to 17th. But the 20 of Matt Kenseth was 14th before the caution, 7th now with this yellow.
You see Chase Elliott leaving in the 24. Pit stops underway here at Darlington. His car was a little snug. He needed no changes, though. He's going to work on that in the cockpit with his adjuster. Denny Hamlin's car was a little better, but still a little loose. He got an adjustment for that. Marty?
Dave, Kyle Larson with a wedge adjustment, trying to tighten up that car. He said, I think it's really good on the short run. Going to be too free on the long run. He comes in running 3rd. Then Kevin Harvick at the front of pit road. He said the car is still a little bit too loose in 1 and 2 and tight in 3 and 4. Half round in the left rear. Harvick will lose a host of spots here on pit road, Rick.
Yeah, it was a herd of cars that went by Kevin Harvick as he was way behind. NASCAR is live from Richmond on NBCSN next week. Friday evening, Xfinity Series Racing. Coverage beginning at 7 p.m. Then Saturday night Sprint Cup Series. Race coverage also starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's Fan Appreciation Week next week at Richmond, and also the last race before the chase. It will be must-win situations for drivers if they want a shot at the championship. One of those drivers that's going to be fighting for a championship will be Kevin Harvick, but the team's going to have to do a lot better on pit road than they have shown the past 2 stops. Take a look at this most recent one.
So it looks pretty normal coming in. The jack man hits the jack post fine. Both the right front tire comes off, but you see a little struggle getting the right rear off, and then it looks like the tire changer's having a little trouble maybe getting the gun going from forward to reverse, from removing lug nuts to tighten it. You see him struggle with the gun, maybe put a couple lug nuts on. It seemed to be okay on the left rear, but it definitely didn't go smooth on the right side. That's over a 17-second pit stop. And when you look at pit road comparison, 16.6 for Kevin Harvick, 11 seconds for Denny Hamlin. You just cannot lose time like that on pit road, Marty.
And they wound up losing 11 spots on pit road. Kevin Harvick leading, will restart 12th here. Walt Smith, who's the pit crew coach, ran down to Danica Patrick's pit. They're going to exchange rear guns with the 10 team, and he's actually running back with that right now. There's the video of Walt handing the gun over to the 10 team. They're going to exchange rear guns with the 10 team and bring it down here to Kevin Harvick's team and hope that they can fill out the rest of the pit stops and not have any more issues here on pit road, guys. But they think it was a rear gun issue on Kevin Harvick's stop.
Let's listen into the radio, too. I'm sure this will be interesting.
Sure, we just lost this race. Pretty much over at this point. Something's wrong with Daniel's gun. They're trying to get one from the 10. Ain't nothing we can do about it now. Just gonna have to make something happen here. Do the best we can.
And that's how frustrating it must be for Kevin Harvick, who has led 213 laps of this race already, and now will restart all the way back in 12th. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson are 1 and 2. Denny Hamlin has chose that inside line once again. Kyle Larson on the outside. Great restart for the 21. One of the best we've seen out of that outside line. Denny Hamlin's able to clear him. Excuse me, the 42 of Kyle Larson, a great restart. The 21 has to come back to pit road after a pit road penalty. Too many men over the wall for the 21. And now here comes the 42 once again. Kyle Larson going for the lead as they go through 3 and 4.
Still clear, you got about half clear.
3 wide behind him for 4th. Chase Elliott's going to take that 4th spot. Jamie McMurray in the 1, trying to hold on to 5th as Brad Keselowski works the inside line. Martin Truex Jr. now looking at the inside of the 11. Furthest up front, we have seen the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. this evening. Denny Hamlin, after restarting up front, has now fallen back to 3rd.
We heard Martin Truex talking about his car being tight and loose, tight and loose, tight and loose earlier, but now he's in 2nd place. You can see the leader. It's amazing how when you can see the leader, and you have really a lot cleaner air, although the car's still in front of you, you don't have 5 or 6 or 7 cars in front of you. With a little cleaner air and being able to see the leader, let's see what he can do with it.
Well, you talk about amazing pace. Kyle Larson, that last lap, was about 0.7 of a second faster than the field.
But remember, we've seen Kyle Larson take off and have trouble later in runs. We saw early in the race, he got loose, and he always got looser and looser and looser because the rear tires weren't working well. So let's see if they made their car better on long runs.
And one other thing that I will remind you as we take a look at the Chase bubble drivers, guys that need a good points night. Chase Elliott, Jamie McMurray, Austin Dillon, Ryan Newman, Casey Kane. Chase Elliott, Jamie McMurray running 4th and 5th. But the guy who's up front, Kyle Larson, yesterday in the Xfinity race, while leading that race, spun trying to get onto pit road. And with 79 laps to go, that means they will have to be on pit road at least one more time before the end of this race.
Yeah, and you hope that that mistake yesterday will help save him from himself today. Maybe he'll have learned something to get to pit road a little bit better, but I don't think it's quite that simple as we see the 24 of Chase Elliott pressure Denny Hamlin.
Kyle Larson out front. Martin Truex Jr. running second. Denny Hamlin third. Chase Elliott fourth, and Jamie McMurray fifth.
Amazing how clearly you can hear the cars hit the racetrack. This is not a smooth racetrack. It's a rough racetrack. You can see the guys running off the banking. We talked about it all night, how difficult this racetrack is, and that's one of the reasons. It's rough, it's bumpy. You run off the apron, you run on the banking. Very rough. Listen.
Chase Elliott with a run. To the inside of the 11. Momentum outruns that inside line. But once again, Chase Elliott trying the lower line here at Darlington.
Chase is definitely faster than Denny Hamlin. Just difficult to pass. Denny Hamlin's doing a really good job of using that outside line. Carries decent speed through the middle. Not real fast, but where he's good is right from here to the straightaway. He's able to get in the throttle and pull away from Chase Elliott, who's running the lower line. Chase is way better than the 11 in 1 and 2. 11's better in 3 and 4.
And Jeff, when I was talking with Alan Gustafson about their plan for tonight, he said, you know, one thing I'm curious about is whether Chase can run the low line in 4. It worked last year, but I don't know if it'll work this year. We're early in this race. Chase tried it, and he said, man, that is just not the way to go. But lately, and now, it is. He's got speed down there, and he's really making it work.
Yeah, he really is. And it's just, it is amazing how these drivers search around and find grooves, find where their car wants to work, and then make adjustments throughout the night to take advantage of where their car's strengths are.
The gap between 1 and 2. Kyle Larson is 1.9 seconds in front of Martin Truex Jr. Kyle Larson trying to make it 2 in a row. A week ago got his first ever Sprint Cup Series win, and now in front of the field at Darlington.
People know me as Dale Earnhardt Jr. race car driver, but there's more to me than that. In my office, they call me Boss Man. I scout the talent, close the deals, do it all with a firm handshake. Gentlemen, to others, I'm Water Cooler Dale. Man, we got those tiny trash cans in our offices. Somebody keeps putting their lunch in mine.
What?
Every day. It smells like mac and cheese. Lobster mac and cheese, maybe?
So weird.
Has any of y'all seen who it is?
No.
For protecting my small business and more, Nationwide is on your side.
Did you know that Chevrolet is the most awarded car company 2 years in a row?
Oh, wow. Surprise.
Chevy's coming out with some nice stuff.
The design's great.
I love it.
#1 in my book.
And Chevy's going to give you 0% financing for 72 months.
That's 6 years of no interest.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
If you only had 72 hours to get a great deal on this car, what would you do?
Can we sign with you?
The Chevy 72-hour sale is here. This Labor Day, get 0% financing for 72 months on all your favorite 2016 Chevy models. Hurry, the clock is ticking. Get yours now. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
I'm the extra crispy Colonel, and this is my little ditty. Extra crispy tender. A tender, but just a little legal tender. Made with warm sesame seed buns. Get 2 in a $5 real meal. What a deal! New Chicken Littles.
It's not even that little.
Yeah, I know. KFC, it's finger little good.
What do you say, you and me, Rob Loomis Fargo?
I think we probably get fired. You just load up a truck and you drive away.
It's time to cut David Gant from the team.
Hop away, little bunny rabbit.
Hey, Steve, I guess you just messed with the...
Okay, let's go. Masterminds, rated PG-13.
At NASCAR, we find ways to make a difference. We've planted trees so emissions can be cut down. We use Sunoco Green E15, a clean ethanol blend to fuel race cars. And our waste oil never goes to waste. When the sun comes up, we put it to work. NASCAR Green. Visit NASCAR.com/green to learn more and see how you can make a difference.
Tomorrow,
I will challenge you!
Olympic gold medalist Lindsey Vonn is in for an uphill battle as she steps off the ski slope and into the wild. New Running Wild with Bear Grylls, tomorrow on NBC.
Following the race on NBC, stay tuned for the NASCAR America post-race show presented by Advance Auto Parts. And be sure to catch Victory Lap at 11 p.m. on NBC SN. Kyle Larson now with almost a 2-second lead over Martin Truex Jr. Chase Elliott about another 1.5 seconds behind Martin Truex Jr. in third. Denny Hamlin, Matt Kenseth running in the top 5.
Well, Jeff, you talk about inside 100 laps. These drivers are going to have to be a little less patient. Well, right here, Chase Elliott had a great run on the 11, tries to shut the door, was successful, but that is a move we didn't see in the first 300 laps of this race. The pace is definitely picking up. The intensity is picking up.
Come on, take it.
Oh, you can hear how he had to get out of the throttle. He just couldn't stay in the throttle, and that's the reason 11 came at such a high rate of speed. 11 could have spun him out right there. 11 got off the throttle and saved him a little bit. But as you mentioned, Chase Elliott, just took that spot, even though he knew he wasn't as quick as he needed to be leaving the corner.
7 cautions have come out this evening. 36 laps under caution. There have been 6 different drivers out front, 10 lead changes in this Southern 500. Kevin Harvick has led the most laps, but issues on pit road have relegated Harvick all the way back to 6th. Marty.
Well, Rick, it's been an eventful night for Brad Keselowski. He led 47 laps so far this evening. Had 1 loose wheel earlier. Does he have one now? Listen to the radio.
Always still here, Brad. Where I can make it. Yeah, everybody can make it from here. Everybody can make it. That's right. Just trying to figure out how much longer I want to ride this wheel. When it gets bad enough you can't drive it, or bring it to it.
So that's the dilemma. They came in a little bit earlier and they lost a lap, and Keselowski losing positions right now, trying to hang on to that race car. Again, he thinks he has a loose wheel, losing 2 positions on that spot on that 1 lap, Rick.
Yeah, he's fallen all the way back to 11th now as Casey Kane was able to get by. Here comes Harvick looking to get by Matt Kenseth. Harvick definitely on the move, driving very aggressively now as Harvick has broken back into the top 5.
It's taking him this long to get back to the top 5. He's had to pick up 7 spots with that bad pit stop.
Marty.
And here comes Brad Keselowski, 63 to go. In theory, they could make it on fuel, but you wouldn't want to go that long on tires to the end of the race. They're going to try and take off all 4 Goodyear tires here and try and see where that loose wheel was coming from. Again, the second one of the evening for this 2-team, Rick.
Yeah, unfortunate that they have had issues with loose wheels. He had a vibration very early in the race, but that was not related to the loose wheel issue that he had earlier. Now another one that has brought him back to pit road. Kelly.
And the roller coaster continues for Kyle Busch. He had run as high as 2nd in this race. They thought they had the handling buttoned up on the 18, but listen to what he said a few laps ago.
I don't know how we've just lost it in the last 3 runs. I mean, 3 runs ago we were chasing down Harvick.
And Kyle went on to say he's just plowing tight with the front, and now the rear is starting to come around. The bright spot for them has been on pit road. They've made up 8 spots through the last 3 trips down pit lane.
And that's almost indicative of what you said about the start of this race, Jeff, when you said the track changes so much. One guy might be great on one run, and then the very next run, he may struggle. As we see a good run now by Jeff Gordon.
Well, he's the exact opposite of Kyle Busch, the 88 of Jeff Gordon there, subbing for Dale Earnhardt Jr. He was a lap down for the majority of this race. He got the free pass a few cautions ago. Here he is all the way up to the 13th position.
Closing in on the back bumper of the 30 of Josh Wise, and he'll go by him great story for the 30 team. Even this week, as early as this week, Josh Wise didn't have a throwback paint scheme for the 30, but he put on the internet, on social media, that they weren't going to do a throwback scheme because they would rather spend the money on tires. They said, we need to spend the money on tires for performance-wise. A company found out about it and said, you know what? Incredible Bank said, we want to be a part of your team. We want to help you get a throwback scheme to be a part of what everybody else is enjoying out there. They gave him a sponsorship for this race and the next one. So a great story for the 30 team and Josh Wise. Kyle Larson out front. Martin Truex Jr. running second at Darlington. We go NASCAR nonstop.
Here I am building a jet engine.
We've been hearing so much about how you're a digital company, so you can see our confusion.
Well, GE is an industrial company that actually builds world-changing machines. Machines that can also communicate digitally.
Like robots?
Yeah.
Did you build that robot?
That's not a robot. That's my coworker, Earl. He builds jet engines with his human hands.
What about that robot?
That is a vending machine, Ricky.
John, give him $1.
Practice went okay, but if he keeps pushing like that, what are you gonna do? Here we go.
Can you feel it? The taste of Coca-Cola.
Can I get your autograph?
Yeah, sure.
I can't wait to show my grandson.
Coming up on Look Famous People, we catch Flo the Progressive Girl at the supermarket buying cheese.
Scandal alert, Flo likes dairy.
Then right afterwards, we caught her riding shotgun with a mystery man.
Oh, yeah. Is this your chauffeur?
What? No, I was just showing him how easy it is to save with Snapshot from Progressive. You just plug it in and it gives you a rate based on your driving.
Does she have insurance for being boring? Laugh bigger.
It's the question you get asked every night. And with Smithfield marinated fresh pork, the prep work is done. So you've got a no-hassle, flavor-filled answer that everyone's gonna love. We use 100% premium cuts of fresh pork, slow marinated and seasoned just right, ready to be grilled, roasted, or sautéed any night of the week. So when dinner time comes, reach for delicious, easy-to-prepare Smithfield marinated fresh pork, because flavor hails from Smithfield.
Welcome to another beautiful race weekend at RIR. I'm Larry Mitchell alongside my partner in crime, the man, the movement, Johnny Swabar Sinclair.
Hey, howdy, folks. Hey, Larry, thanks for having me.
No problem. RIR is a place to be all weekend long for family fun and, of course, the excitement of short track racing.
Boy, some will win, some will lose, but either way, I'm going to be wearing this sweet jacket.
You got that right, Johnny. Get your tickets early and join us for race weekend at RIR, where everyone's a winner.
Except for the losers.
Who will take the crown at the second leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs? The Deutsche Bank Championship concludes tomorrow on Golf Channel and NBC.
Welcome back to the Bojangles Southern 500. You saw on pit road when Casey Mears was in his pit stall and then leaving a big fire. It was taken care of and put out as Kyle Larson remains up front by about a second in front of Martin Truex Jr. As we take a look at the fight for 30th in points presented by Sprint, Chris Buescher 13 points ahead of David Reagan, who's 31st, and it's so important for the 30 or that 30th spot for Chris Buescher. He has a win, but he has to be in the top 30 in points to be eligible for the chase. And with that win at Pocono and getting into the top 30 in points, that moved Ryan Newman, after Kyle Larson won, out of the top 16. Sprint's network reliability is now within 1% of Verizon. As we see smoke rolling out from behind Smoke, and that brings the caution out.
You know, the 14 reported they had cooling issues earlier. Made a couple trips to pit road to try to get the cooling worked out on that 14.
We know what the problem is.
Here we know what the problem is, and then basically, you know, these engines, he was running 13th. I mean, these engines are designed to run at optimal temperatures. When you overheat them at any point, you can do damage. It sounds like they've had cooling issues most of the night. it finally looks like an engine has expired on the 14 car.
And Steve, remember, yes, they've been dealing with those cooling issues all evening long for Tony Stewart. Not the final Darlington run that he wanted, but Smoke will head to the garage area with an engine that has now officially expired. They told him, go as long as you can. Well, it went 317 laps. That's as far as it would go.
All right, guys. We've talked about it.
Goodness.
49 to go.
Yep.
Kevin Harvick has recovered from that slow pit stop up to the 5th position. Kyle Larson and Martin Truex have worked their way up to 1st and 2nd. This may not be the final pit stop, but it could be. The teams can go from here on fuel. It comes down to what pit crew can perform. Can the 4 of Kevin Harvick recover, maybe gain a spot or two? I really believe Kevin Harvick can win it from inside the top 5, but he's going to need some help from his pit crew.
Now, obviously, you want to come out with the lead, but if you don't come out with the lead, you may see some games being played at the end of pit road to come out 3rd rather than 2nd, because we've seen all night the inside line is the preferred line when they're launching in the restart zone. So will anyone play games trying to get themselves in that 3rd position?
How important is the #1 pit stall, which Kevin Harvick has?
Well, it helps. It helps for sure. Not quite as important as other tracks, but they've had more issues inside the pit box just being clean. I think that's their #1 goal. They have that advantage of the #1 stall. They need to be clean inside the box and use that stall, Dave.
So what will teams do to try to catch the 42 of Larson? For the 24 of Chase Elliott, he said, I liked it until late in the run. They're going to make a wedge adjustment with those 4 tires and fuel. For the 11 of Denny Hamlin, he says, I'm tight, but the back end is loose, so they'll adjust there. And the 78 of Martin Truex Jr., fresh rubber, hoping that will cure his problems, Marty.
Earlier in the race, Kyle Larson, Dave, really good on the long runs. Well, now he seems to be very good on the short run. His car gets a little bit too free the longer they run. Not completely unhappy with it, though. They are going to make a wedge adjustment and put some tape on the grill, trying to tighten up for a longer run. And he said, get all 4 of those tires tight. Make sure we're good on that front. Rick?
And the race off pit road. This time, 42 able to hang on to that top spot. Martin Truex Jr. also holding on to his 2nd spot. We go NASCAR nonstop once again.
Before taking his team to state for the first time,
Go get it, Marcus. Go get it.
Coach Gilman used his Cash Rewards credit card from Bank of America to earn 1% cash back everywhere, every time, at places like the batting cages. 2% back at grocery stores, and now at wholesale clubs. And 3% back on gas, which helped him give his players something extra.
That's a little token.
The Cash Rewards credit card from Bank of America. More cash back for the things you buy most.
It's the final days of the Ford Freedom Sales Event, and the deals just got better. Just announced 0% financing plus $500 Labor Day cash across the entire 2016 Ford lineup. And specially tagged vehicles get an extra 1,000 smart bonus cash. Freedom from interest and freedom to choose with Ford, America's best-selling brand. Hurry, get 0% for 72 and $500 Labor Day cash across the entire Ford lineup. Plus, specially tagged vehicles get another 1,000 smart bonus cash.
Unleash your refreshing citrus kick. Do the do. Double meat and cheese, classic. Grilled onions and Thousand Island, classic. Plus fries and a drink, all for just $4.99, really classic. The classic double cheeseburger combo for just $4.99 at Carl's Jr. and Hardee's.
This is my garage. These are my tools. This is my jam. That's my baby. This is my moment. And this is my victory lap. Advance Auto Parts.
Your name's been in a lot of places. But there's only one place you really want to see it.
At the track too tough to tame, it has been exactly that for a few that have. bit the dust. And welcome back to Darlington Raceway. It's Labor Day weekend. Southern 500 is 45 laps away from the checkered flag. Kyle Larson 45 laps away from getting back-to-back wins. It's only been done 4 other times. Drivers that have been able to win their first race and come back and win the very next race. And one of those who did it was our very own Ned Jarrett, who was part of the broadcast earlier this evening. Take a look at the last 3 finishes for Kyle Larson. Very impressive, obviously, at Michigan. Dave.
Chase Elliott lost 3 spots on pit road, and it's not the first time tonight. When I was looking over the replay with the crew coach down there, I didn't see anything wrong with the stop. Then I got a tap on my shoulder. Alan Gustafson wanted to see what in the world is going on. The stop seemed smooth, but he's losing spots.
2x2 once again. Kyle Larson on the inside, Martin Truex Jr. on the outside. Hamlin and Harvick making up row 2 as they come back into the restart zone. 45 laps to go. Green flag back in the air. Everyone holding position in the top 4. Carl Edwards looking to the inside of Jamie McMurray for a spot. Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, the top 5.
And Truex did a really good job on that restart of being able to maintain second. I think that's as good as you can hope for in that outside lane.
And we see Kevin Harvick passing Denny Hamlin. You know, we'd mentioned before that pit stop that the 4 crew had to help the driver out. They did gain a spot for Kevin Harvick, got him from 5th to 4th on the restart, and he's done his job to get him up to 3rd.
27 smoking quite a bit. I saw Paul Menard have some smoke coming out.
We got hit in the left rear.
From that car.
Lap. You want to try one more lap?
They're hoping that they don't cut that left rear down.
That's a lot of smoke.
As now Joey Logano in the 22 has closed the gap and trying to take over the 11 of Denny Hamlin. 2 different lines for the drivers as they go through 3 and 4. And let's go into the garage and Mike Massaro.
And Rick, Tony Stewart had just completed debriefing with Scott Maxim from Hendrick Motorsports Engine Department and your crew chief. Could you guys determine what led to the failure?
Yeah, it's well, overheated was the first part of it, and it finally grenaded. I mean, it was 375 degrees on water temperature, but it was. There's a screen in there that's like an outerwear that keeps all the trash from getting into the radiator, and it got separated from its mount, and so all the trash was getting underneath it and then going up in front of the radiator and just kept blocking it. It just kept building water temperature till it finally lost the motor.
Earlier in the race, there was a little incident with Brian Scott. Let's go back there. What happened there?
He wrecked. So.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
All right.
And of course, Tony's final Southern 500.
Hold on to it.
And
Lock
it looks
her
as though another incident coming out of turn 2, and this time it's Kurt Busch in the 41. And a lot of damage to the back of the 41.
He's running 14th,
yeah,
Rick, and wow.
Fantastic.
You say a lot of damage. Seems like every end of that race car has made contact with something.
I think Paul Menard was in it as well. I thought I saw him driving away from the incident slow.
Well, remember, Paul Menard had the smoke coming out from behind that 27 because of tire rub, they thought. Kurt Busch was running 14th. Take another look. Could the tire have gone away from Paul Menard?
Yes, the left rear tire is definitely down. If you go back and watch that left rear tire on the 27, doesn't go completely flat, but you see the air come out of it. It gets slack, gets close to the rim. As he walks up the racetrack, he catches the left rear of the 41 of Kurt Busch. Right there, you see the left rear tire is down on the 27. So Paul really had no control of his race car, and unfortunately for Kurt Busch, wrong place at the wrong time for the 41.
So that's the 9th caution of the evening. And a couple hard hits.
Is what do you do, Rick? You've run 5 hard hard laps on your tires. There's 40 laps to go. If you're Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, going to be very difficult to pit from the front 3 positions. But how about 4th through 8th? Maybe Hamlin, Logano, Kenseth Elliott. Will somebody think those little bit fresher tires are important? This is a replay again. Look at the left rear tire of that 27. It starts to get slack right here. You'll see it just loses a little bit of air. You see that white Goodyear lettering kind of scrunch up on it as it goes down towards the racetrack right there. That's the air coming out of that tire, and Paul Menard loses control of his race car.
Up the racetrack he goes, catches the 41 of Kurt Busch.
Yeah, I think one thing, talking about these pit stops, you got guys in the chase racing to try to get in the chase. You got Austin Dillon back in 14th. We talked about Chris Buescher and what he's trying to do. He's in 16th. These guys have nothing to lose by pitting, but Jamie McMurray in 8th, Ryan Newman in 10th. I think that's the hardest call because remember, they need you said it, every spot is a point. Every spot is a point. Do you pit? Do you not pit? Tough call for these guys in those positions.
Again, Chase Elliott running 7th, Jamie McMurray 8th, Ryan Newman 10th. All the drivers either above them or in between have won already and will be in the chase because of the wins that they have.
And here's the decisions right here. Pit road is open. It doesn't look like Kyle Larson's going to come. No, he does. He comes off the bank in 5 laps of his tires, and Kyle Larson decides he needs new Goodyear Eagles. Dave?
The 11 of Denny Hamlin is on pit road. He says the balance is not terrible, but I need better speed on the restarts. They'll adjust for that. As for the 78, they learned from earlier tonight. Cole Prince said we're going to do just what we did on that other short run earlier, Marty.
Dave, remember Kyle Larson and his team learned the lesson earlier tonight. They had 4-lap fresher tires than everybody else, and they stormed up through the field. So no doubt Chad Johnson was calling Kyle Larson to pit road. He said it fired off really well on that run, so they didn't want to make major changes to it. Going to be a slight air pressure adjustment and 4 Goodyear tires. For Kevin Harvick and his race team, he said, I'm pretty good right there, but I definitely can turn a little bit better. You're going to see a very small wedge adjustment for Kevin Harvick, trying to make that car just a little bit tighter. The race off pit road is going to be very tight. Looks like the 78 is going to win it, Rick.
Martin Truex Jr. might have won the race off of pit road, but 2 drivers stayed out. Ryan Newman and Brad Keselowski stayed out.
How oftentimes we hear the praises sung of wealthy men,
but you very seldom hear them sing
of the honest working man.
His hands may be both rough and hard.
His clothes and speech be plain,
but you will find his manly heart without a spot or stain.
Let us give 3 cheers
with right goodwill
for the honest working man.
I used to ask if you could hear me now, but I switched to Sprint. Their network reliability is now within 1% of Verizon. And get this, with Sprint's new unlimited plan, you have the freedom to do virtually whatever you want.
Is there no worrying about gigabytes, megabytes, overages, billphobia?
That's the dream right there.
Well, then Mama is gonna text, ping, post, tweet, snap those dogs that learn to dance on their hind legs.
Can you hear that?
And makeup tutorials.
Don't let a 1% difference limit your freedom. Unlimited mobile optimized data. 4 lines, $160 a month. Live your life unlimited.
Each biscuit is like a unique snowflake. A unique steak, egg, and cheese-filled snowflake. The steak, egg, and cheese biscuit or burrito. Only at Hardee's and Carl's Jr.
500 degrees. 40 below. And protection for 15,000 miles. Mobil 1. Energy lives here.
Toyota, let's go places.
In this cauldron of fiery wills and burning competition, rivalries heat up quicker. This is an oval of stolen victories and crushed dreams, filled with volumes of unfinished business. Sooner or later, you all become rivals. With everyone fighting over one finish line, there's never enough glory to go around.
When once again, welcome back to Darlington Raceway and this throwback weekend for the Bojangles Southern 500. It has been an incredible weekend already. Great crowd on hand for both the Xfinity Series race as well as tonight's race. You see the crowd being treated to an amazing race already. The dominant car early was Kevin Harvick, but issues on pit road for that team have lost spots continuously. He's once again now going to restart 7th. A couple drivers that stayed out will not have as fresh of tires. Ryan Newman and Brad Keselowski, and a big move for Newman because he is in a position where he has to get points, maximum points, or win this race if he wants to win and have an opportunity to be in the chase.
Yeah, this is a gutsy call right here. They know they have to find some points either here or at Richmond. If everything stayed the same right now, it puts Ryan Newman, you know, in the lead of all these guys in the chase bubble, but there's still 36 to go. He has a little bit older tires than the guys coming from behind, so he's going to have to fight to keep this position. But if one thing we know about Ryan Newman, he's one of the hardest people on the racetrack to pass, and he will be given 100%.
Yeah, and basically we have him in right now in the chase bubble because Ryan Newman, in the position he's in,
he's leading
the race. He's the race winner. Mike?
And Kurt Busch has just left the Care Center, guys. What happened?
I don't know. I hadn't seen a replay of it yet. You guys got a replay? Got the board there. Just not enough give, too much take. You know, for me, we had a tough night. We were trying to get the loose and the tight balanced out. And, yeah, he's just sideways. And he just pushed too hard. And that's what happens when I didn't give him enough room. He overdrove. I was right there on the limit. And it's the end of our night. Just a tough, tough night for all of the hard work that goes into it. All these races come down to these restarts at the end. There's no such thing as a long green flag run anymore, and you got to be ready and battle on these restarts. Problem is everybody's got good give and take early in the race. Nobody has give and take at the end.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and when you get interviewed as a driver and you got in a wreck, you really don't know what happened. You know, he couldn't see the left rear was flat on that, didn't see it on the replay, so, you know, he just wasn't aware that the left rear was down.
All right, guys, let's talk strategy as we go now. Under 43 to go, brought to you by Smithfield Foods. Obviously, it's going to be a great finish.
Well, it all starts with restarts. We have two cars that stayed out on old tires, a bunch of fresh tires behind them, so the restarts are important. But after you get restarted, you have to weigh that balance, Jeff.
Yeah, you do. You have to be patient a little bit because this racetrack requires you to. But if you're not aggressive enough, you're not going to go to the front, and you're not going to stay in the front where some of these guys have positioned themselves.
How will the little older tires do now? As Ryan Newman on the inside, Brad Keselowski on the outside. Didn't come to pit road under this most recent caution. Into the restart zone they go. Newman spinning his tires on the inside, as does Brad Keselowski. Martin Truex Jr. is going to take the inside line and try to take the lead away as they go through 1 and 2.
And Kevin Harvick made it 3 wide back there as we have a car smoking back farther in the pack.
Looks like the 19 of Carl Edwards. Some damage to the left front. And he's got tire rub on the left front, so Carl Edwards going to have to come to pit road just as the green flag came out.
We talk patience versus aggression. There's very few patience for Kevin Harvick. An aggressive move in 1 and 2 and continues to try to pass on the exit of 4.
Newman able to get up front once again as he was able to take the spot back. 78 not able to make that pass.
So Murray battling. Talk about patience, aggression. You know, here's a guy that cannot afford a bad run. At the same time, with Newman out front leading, Jamie Murray has got to push a little bit.
McMurray, Chase Elliott, drivers that are fighting for points tonight, as well as Austin Dillon, all on the lead lap, all in the top 15. Ryan Newman running for a win at Darlington.
Right now, Martin Truex Jr. continues to try to work by that 31 of Ryan Newman. He knows that he needs to try to get clear of him because you see back there Kevin Harvick swings to the bottom of the racetrack and passes the 42 of Kyle Larson to put himself in the 4th position. Kevin Harvick has led 213 laps tonight. He feels this was his type of race, his race to win. A couple miscues on pit road have cost this 4 car.
He's trying to fight back as Martin Truex Jr. looks to the inside of the 31.
It's hard to pull this pass off. We've seen it all night long. That outside gets a good run coming off of turn 4.
They rocket down the backstretch and into 3. both just clipping that apron as they got into 3.
And this is how Ryan Newman has made his career. Being aggressive with pit strategy, using older tires. Remember, he's on older tires than Martin Truex and holding him off for the lead.
And what have we said numerous times about Ryan Newman? He's one of the toughest guys on the track to pass.
I'll go ahead and give him the toughest. I really believe Ryan Newman does a great job of not making mistakes, being difficult to pass, protecting his position.
You said it a little while ago. Ryan Newman is doing a great job of leading this race. I think that he's holding Truex up a little bit, but those guys behind him, Keselowski and Harvick, they're coming, so these guys got to get this sorted out. A big move for the lead.
Here comes Martin Truex Jr. for the lead. He'll take it away from Ryan Newman. He stays down on the lower part of the track, but he'll hold on to the top spot. Now with the fresh air out in front of him, Martin Truex Jr. leading the Southern 500.
And with that pass right there, Ryan Newman goes from the leader to second position. He loses that automatic bit in the chase, but he's done some damage to the points. He's only -6 over the 1 of Jamie McMurray. A great recovery from Ryan Newman. Remember, this 31 car started last today in the field.
He started last, was a lap down, had to work himself back from a lap down. Has rarely been in front of Jamie McMurray, but currently is 8 spots in front of Jamie McMurray.
How about the 4? Here comes Harvick. 27 laps to go, and he's able to get by Brad Keselowski. Harvick up to 3rd.
Oh, Keselowski did not know that Larson was trying to make a move on the outside. Squeeze Larson way up the racetrack.
And now Larson's going to lose a spot to the 22 of Joey Logano.
And that is a spot getting into turn 1. You don't expect someone to be on the outside of you. That's just, you're not even looking for that. You don't have any idea someone's even thinking about being up there.
And that's exactly what Kyle Larson was doing, trying to take a spot away.
And Rick, with 26 to go, this grip of all these tires is just going to continue to go down. These cars are going to slide. But look at Kyle Larson. He's going to try to fill that hole on the outside of the 2 of Brad Keselowski in that light blue and white machine. Brad had no idea he was coming, slid up, filled the position. That hurt Kyle Larson's momentum. Joey Logano was there to try to capitalize, but the 42 fought back in turns 3 and 4.
Still out front, Martin Truex Jr. has almost a second lead over Ryan Newman. Ryan Newman hanging tough now in 2nd. Kevin Harvick 3rd, Brad Keselowski 4th, Kyle Larson in 5th. A little further back, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Matt Kenseth, Jamie McMurray, the top 10.
And look what that one issue between the 2 and the 42 did. It cost Kyle Larson so much time as we see Kevin Harvick down on the bottom of the racetrack, takes a hard left and tries to get underneath the 31 of Ryan Newman.
He's got to make this move quickly. He's got to try to find a way to get by Newman quickly if he's going to have a chance to run Truex down.
Already the gap, 1.7 seconds now between 1st and 2nd.
Oh,
a great run. Great run by Kevin Harvick, but Ryan Newman making it tough. Down the back stretch they go. Harvick moving to the inside, and he'll pass the 31.
Rick, this track is not like any other, though. With 24 to go, nothing is guaranteed. Even if we don't have a caution, it's so difficult to maintain the pace. Every corner, every lap, the grip level changes. We saw just yesterday, Jeff, the leader of the race, Elliott Sadler, hit the wall with 2 laps to go. It's so easy to make a mistake.
And you would think on this size of a racetrack with 23 laps to go that Kevin Harvick could never run Truex down 2.5 seconds in front, but we have seen big differences in speed as the run goes on, tires get older, so don't count Kevin Harvick out.
And remember, over the last 3 pit stops, Kevin Harvick has lost 17 spots on pit road, and now he's only worried about 1 position. He wants to get by the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. Mike.
And we talk about Ryan Newman, Rick, and what a battle through adversity it's been for the 31 team. After starting at the back and then falling a couple of laps down, they never gave up and kept fighting their way to the front. I spoke with Luke Lambert, the crew chief for Ryan Newman this morning, and he told me he was very realistic about where they stand in terms of their chase chances below the cutoff line. They said, because of that, we cannot afford to be conservative. We need to keep applying pressure to those guys we're chasing. And that's what they're doing right now.
Mike Harvick just hit the wall. Running 2nd, got into the wall.
This track is so difficult. We just mentioned how this, you said all night long, how the walls could just jump out and grab you. The 4 of Kevin Harvick. A big mistake, heavy contact with the wall off turn 4.
But he knew with only this many laps left here, you can see him big loose, really big loose. But he had to push his car, you know, to run Martin Truex down, he's got to be in the throttle, pushing hard. Tried just a little bit too hard, got in the wall.
And look who's coming next. So the 42 of Kyle Larson. He's now got to the 31. Makes easy work of the 31 of Ryan Newman. He knows the 4 has damage. Can he get by the 4 and try to run down Truex?
Does the safer barrier help Kevin Harvick in that situation not do as much damage as maybe the concrete wall would have done to that car?
No, if anything, it hurts him because it's taken away 2 feet of racetrack. That safer barrier is out. It's there for the right reasons to protect the drivers, but it has made this track that they run the top smaller.
Kyle Larson, the man on the move now, Marty.
Rick trying to become the 5th driver to win his first and second races in back-to-back weekends. They have been very good on the short run. Behind him, you see Joey Logano going around Ryan Newman. The 42 car been very good on short runs so far this evening, here especially late in the race. Trying to take advantage of that now and get around that 4 car of Kevin Harvick. You know, Kevin, we're not talking about caution on the racetrack, Rick.
Hard hit for the 43 of Eric Almirola. Front end smashed in.
Yeah. I thought he was going to give me a little more room than that.
And you hear him talking on the radio. He was running 20th. Thought he was going to be given more room by someone that he was racing against.
Only 18 to go. Tough decisions are going to have to be made.
You see the disappointment in Eric Almirola throwing his gloves. We talked about this racetrack, how difficult it is, and he's run 349 laps only to get in an accident with 18 to go.
Not the finish that anyone is looking for. And so as he unstraps, safety crew gets to him. Let's take a look at what happened and who he was racing with.
So underneath Clint Bowyer, just gets loose.
He just thought the 15, I think, was going to be higher, and
got back into the back of him. That's Clint coming down the racetrack.
I think once you make contact to the wall, you know, kind of from then on, who knows who's in control of what. So big impact. Glad he's okay.
You know what this caution does do, though, is you see another replay of it with the 43.
Inside, you and him. All clear. All clear. All clear.
I'll tell you what it does. It puts us in position to who's going to come to pit road now.
Well, they're all going to come, Rick. I think it just goes right back to the pit stops again, right back to the pit crews with 16 laps of their tires. All the leaders will be coming to pit road, and here they turn off the banking in 3 and 4. They're entering the pit road.
Dave.
Martin Truex said on the radio, well, it was too good to be true. Now it's up to his pit crew, which has had a good night so far. Doesn't need any changes to the race car. It's obviously good.
Dave, Brad Keselowski in the 8th position has himself in a spot to get in the top 5 here. Penske hasn't won here since 1975. He would love to do a little bit better than that. They fought back from 2 loose wheels today for Brad Keselowski and his team to find themselves in the position. The car a little bit too free for Brad. 4 fresh Goodyear tires. On the bottom of your screen, Kyle Larson said he started too tight at the beginning of that run. Quarter round of wedge in the right rear to loosen it up. For Kevin Harvick's team, Rodney Childers told the guys, you got to believe in yourself. You can do this on this stop. They've had 3 bad pit stops tonight. Not a bad one now for Kevin Harvick, though. They pull away that right front fender and put a little more turn in the race car, Rick.
Kevin Harvick coming off the pit road, looked like in the top 3. Martin Truex Jr. another good stop. Under the lights, less than 15 laps to go in the Southern 500 from Darlington Raceway. The most historic racetrack in all of NASCAR, built back in 1950. This the 67th running of the Southern 500 back on Labor Day weekend a year ago. They made a big deal out of the throwback scheme, and most teams joined in. This year, almost 100% of the teams involved, as we see the 15 of Clint Bowyer making his way onto pit road. The crowd anticipating some of the greatest laps to be raced here at the end of this one.
Yeah, it's a huge crowd, and this race hasn't disappointed. We've kind of had it all. Kevin Harvick led early, seemed to dominate, had his issues on pit road, though, and since then we've had leaders Keselowski, Larson, Truex Jr., who's currently in the lead. Denny Hamlin has showed speed, and somehow they've all ended up back at the front for this short sprint to the finish, Rick.
It will be the 78s. Martin Truex Jr. will restart the race up front. Kevin Harvick will join him in row 1.
And I race within the race. The guys racing for the chase. That pit stop shook some stuff up. The 3-car pitted from 13th. He came out 12th. The 31 pitted from 5th. He came out 8th. And the 1-car pitted from 11th. And he came out 13th.
So basically, we've run 353 laps, Rick, and our 4 bubble drivers going for 3 positions are 8th, 9th, 12th, and 13th. Thanks for running all day long. You're basically back to where you started, everybody in the sight of one another, and look how close it is. McMurray has lost a little. Newman has gained. He's not all the way up in, but he has knocked it down to 9 points. Really, I think Ryan Newman has to get all the points he can, but if anything, leave it a manageable margin heading into Richmond. Kelly?
And it's been such a strong race for Jamie McMurray, but bad news for that one team. He's going to have to come back down to pit road. They didn't get all the lug nuts on at least one of those wheels. They didn't want to leave him out there feeling like there could be too bad of a vibration, taking no chances, bringing the 1 car back down to pit road to tighten up the lug nuts. He's going to have to start from the tail end for pitting twice during this caution.
That penalty, he's running 13th. There's 18 cars on the lead lap, so that's going to put him in 18th. A loss of 5 spots. He's only 9 ahead, so
5 points.
Yes.
5 spots, 5 points.
Which is pretty quick here. Let me say thank you to NASCAR for changing that point system a few years ago. It used to be very complicated. 5 for certain positions, 4 for other positions. They said, you know what, let's make it simple. Every position's a point.
We talk about NASCAR being a team sport. This is what we're talking about. The pit crews, the engineers, the drivers. It takes everybody. Mistakes from anyone can hurt your opportunities to win championships and win races.
You mentioned pit crews and engineers. Furniture Row Racing won in 2011 the Southern 500 with Regan Smith driving. Current crew chief Cole Pern is the only one of the 4 remaining crew members from that team. He was an engineer at the time, and now a crew chief for the 78 team.
Well, the 78 is going to try to use the lead position to control this restart, but outside that front row, Kevin Harvick has worked himself all the way back up to position to win the race. And then look at row 2. You have Kyle Larson, last week's winner, still in position to win this race tonight.
Joining 4 others that have been able to do that after getting their first wins. We look back through the rows, getting ready for the restart. May not be the final one. 12 laps to go. Martin Truex Jr. has chosen the inside line. Good restart. Kevin Harvick on the outside, trying to hang on to second. Here comes the 42 of Kyle Larson. Can he clear the 4 as they come out of turn 2 all the way to the bottom of the racetrack? And he does. He takes second away. Now he'll set his sights on that 78 of Martin Truex Jr. Both go down low. Kevin Harvick wants to go where they are not. He goes up high, trying to take second back again on the high side. He'll do it.
What a move. We've seen Kevin Harvick on the bottom of the racetrack almost most of the night. Jumps to the outside to get into the second spot.
And clears and leaves the 42 as he tries to run down the 78, that blue car of Martin Truex Jr.
Martin Truex Jr. has been out front 17 laps. 2 times he's been in front of the field. Kevin Harvick was out front for 214 laps, and now with just under 11 laps to go, 10 to go now for Martin Truex Jr. He's going to try to hang on.
And the leaders right there ran the fastest laps of the night, Rick.
Under 28 seconds for Martin Truex Jr. on that last lap. Covering 1.3 miles in under 28 seconds. And the gap closing. Martin Truex Jr. Kevin Harvick 1 and 2. Now 9 laps to go.
And Harvick matched Martin Truex's lap time on that lap. They were dead equal first and second.
Harvick's got to keep the pressure on. You got to try to force Truex into a mistake. We talked about it relentlessly tonight about how hard it is to run this racetrack. It gets much harder when you're trying to win a race and have to run a pace at a high speed. So Kevin Harvick's got to stay close.
We saw Kevin Harvick maybe push it a little bit too hard earlier when he got into the wall, running second, trying to chase down Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah, but that lap there, Rick, was faster than the leader. Kevin Harvick gained about 1/10 of a second on Martin Truex, trying to close in on that 4/10 of a second lead, and he's doing it. He's gaining time down the backstretch.
will try to run a little different line. That high line right up against the wall for Kevin Harvick and loses a little ground on the 78. Can he make it back? 7 laps to go.
The lap times these two drivers are trying to run, there's just no room for error. So close to the wall, both ends of the racetrack.
And you both mentioned it, you've got to catch them before you can pass them. And that's what Kevin Harvick's trying to do. Get to that back bumper.
I honestly think this is what Kevin Harvick wants to see. He wants to see Martin Truex move up the racetrack because he's been on the bottom all night long. And I think Truex is watching his mirror, seeing Harvick go to the top, and that's moved him to the top. But I think if Harvick had his choice, he would want to run the bottom of the racetrack.
We've talked all night about racing the racetrack, being patient, the lady in black, how difficult Darlington is, and this is what these two drivers have done for 361 laps. Now there's 6 laps to go, coming to 5 laps to go. Now you're racing your competitor. You still have to be mindful of the racetrack.
Right, give me 5 more, buddy.
You hear right there, 5 more. That's all Martin Truex needs to win the Southern 500.
Truex about a 10th faster than Harvick that lap.
What a feather in the cap it would be for Martin Truex Jr. to be able to win one of the crown jewels of NASCAR. Kevin Harvick still 0.6 of a second back.
Well, you mentioned the crown jewels, though, Rick. Martin Truex Jr. heartbroken second in the Daytona 500, responds back by dominating the 600. Here he is, and another crown jewel of NASCAR, the Southern 500. But Martin Truex has been plagued with issues this year. Fast race cars, but small mistakes and small issues have cost them. Can they close it out with 4 to go?
There have been some emotional wins for Martin Truex Jr., but the emotions might be at their highest if he's able to hang on and hold off the charge of the 4 of Kevin Harvick. This time by 3 laps to go.
Just a little bit faster than Harvick that lap again.
Making a statement as we close in on the chase with 3 to go. Why this isn't a standard 1.5 mile track. It's the last high-speed track before the chase. Truex, Harvick, Larson, the top 3 cars, all putting themselves out there as championship contenders.
And Martin Truex Jr. has been so good on all different types of tracks. In the 2016 season, 2 more times around at Darlington. His lead increasing over Kevin Harvick.
Nothing's over yet, though. We saw yesterday on this lap, the race leader made contact with the wall. Martin Truex clean through 1 and 2.
Truex Jr., as you mentioned earlier, dominated at Charlotte, leading almost all of the laps.
Price flag right here, price flag.
1 lap to go, sponsored by Credit One Bank. Martin Truex Jr., the 36-year-old out of Marietta, New Jersey, down the backstretch for the final time. Has almost a second lead over Kevin Harvick.
All clear.
Looking to win the biggest race of his life as he comes back on the front stretch. Martin Truex Jr. will win the Southern 500.
Yeah, baby, Southern 500. Yeah. Unreal, man. Thank you. Hard to get, buddy. That's unbelievable. Good job, bud. Oh, yeah! Freaking awesome! Pit crew, buddy! Freaking awesome, guys! Wait.
The sponsor he's going to take with him to victory lane, Auto Owners Insurance, the 100th anniversary. This throwback weekend, there's been big wins for Martin Truex Jr. in his racing career, but none bigger than winning the Bojangles Southern 500 at Darlington. Martin Truex Jr. celebrating at Darlington. This moment presented by Sunoco, fueling victories all season long.
You are a Southern 500 winner. It's a great feeling. One of the biggest races in our sport. All the drivers want to win the big races. All the teams want to win the big races.
And a team effort. This was one of those races where, when it started, we brought up the fact you can't make mistakes. And what ended up happening with the 4 team of Kevin Harvick, mistakes on pit road relegated him back far enough that he just didn't have enough to get by the 78. And take a look at that. Kissing the start-finish line.
And think about this, Rick. The 4th win for Furniture Row Racing in their history, but their 2nd Southern 500.
Fireworks overhead. And Martin Truex Jr. put on a show on the racing surface tonight. One of the longest races in all of NASCAR, as we saw Kyle and Brad just having a little bit of a chat. It was well worth the wait for Martin Truex Jr. After he led 28 laps. Didn't lead the most. As a matter of fact, 3 drivers led more laps than he did tonight. But in the end, it was everything coming together for the team on pit road, not making mistakes once they had got the track position, and then Martin Truex Jr. with a great restart at the end to be able to hold off Kevin Harvick.
And Rick, I love this old school celebration. Before burnouts, you used to just do a simple victory lap with the checkered flag out the window. Martin Truex Jr. bringing it back kind of old school for the throwback night. A simple lap around the racetrack, showing his appreciation to these great fans that filled this place up.
The backstretch at this racetrack, when it was initially built, that was the front stretch. And right along Highway 151. And now the 78 team will join their driver, Martin Truex Jr., in victory lane. One of the most coveted wins in all of NASCAR. Winning the Southern 500, and that's exactly what Martin Truex Jr. is celebrating right now. And we'll celebrate with him when we return. Anybody that races in NASCAR wants to win at the Crown Jewels, and winning the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte in dominating fashion. A very emotional win for Martin Truex Jr. earlier this year. Sherry Pollock's his longtime girlfriend, able to celebrate with him there, and then this big win, the Southern 500. Let's let him out of the car. Dave?
Just like it was tough to contain him on the track tonight, it was tough to keep you in that car for a minute longer there. What an incredible win. A Southern 500 for you, Martin.
Oh my God, this is just, this is unbelievable. So many people to thank, obviously. I've always loved this racetrack. I've led a lot of laps here in my career, and I feel like just something always happened, and just so proud to get to victory lane with this group. The pit crew was flawless tonight. They won us the race. They took a lot of heat from last week, what happened with and Lady's not riding home with me. He'd be waiting a while. But just a big weekend for us. You know, we've had a terrible string of bad luck. We've had super fast race cars, auto owners insurance. You know, this is our second race with us, one more with us this year, and really excited for them.
And they went retro with you.
Did a little retro. I got my suit. this is something here that's really special to us. I ran this wheel today, and it's real special to take that thing to victory lane. So we do a lot with our foundation for ovarian and pediatric cancer, and it's awareness month for both of those diseases. So a big day for us there, but just can't say enough about this team and Barney Visser and everybody at Toyota and TRD. The engines have been unbelievable this year, and Bass Pro Shops and Furniture Row and Denver Mattress and everybody that's made this possible. Cole Pern, Jazzy. I mean, these guys are just amazing, and I knew when the bad luck would stop coming, we'd start racking them off. And you know, tonight we weren't the best car for once, and we actually won, so that was really cool, and just couldn't be more excited to win at Darlington. Southern 500. Been wanting to win this thing a long time, and I think Sprint, the fans were great. I mean, tons of fans here today, and really excited. Glad they stuck around for a good finish, and I don't know, man, just I could go on and on for hours, I guess. But
yes, because this is Southern 500, so it is a crown jewel event. Over time, as you thought about the possibility of winning here, what went through your mind?
Well, it just was frustrating to lead laps here throughout my career, and even the years when we didn't run that well at teams I was on, we seemed to run well here, and felt like we let a few slip away, but you know, it was worth the wait for sure. So we'll do some celebrating tonight, and just can't thank everybody enough again. I mean, it's everybody at Gibbs, all those guys, great teammates. Just so many people that I need to thank. The pit crew, man, I can't say it enough. I mean, what a job they did tonight. Appreciate them.
You thank the whole team for recovery from last week. You finished 20th at Michigan. Big time for this team tonight.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, with the chase coming, I mean, get that confidence up, get another win, in the pocket, and that's huge for us. It really is. So, a lot of people have been giving us a lot of heat about not finishing races and a lot of things happening. A lot of them have been out of our control, and pit crew's done a great job, but they did stumble last week, and this is a heck of a way to make it up.
So as I talk to Cole, as I see you here, I got to believe the confidence and the momentum are at an all-time high for your group.
We never lost confidence, I don't think. I mean, we've been one of the fastest, if not the fastest car all summer long, everywhere we've been, and we've had a lot of rotten luck, but it was worth having all that luck if that's what it takes to get a Southern 500 trophy.
Martin Truex Jr. tames the track, too tough to tame. Southern 500 winner tonight.
And joined some pretty impressive company that have both won the Coca-Cola 600 and the Southern 500 in the same year. And the guy sitting to my right is on this list. Back in 1999, Jeff Burton did it. Gordon's done it a couple times. Look at the names: David Pearson, Bobby Allison, Leroy Yarborough, Jimmy Johnson, Carl. I mean, a very impressive list of names here that have won the two big races of the year.
These are two of the biggest races and the longest races. It takes, we saw the cars change a lot tonight. We saw some cars that were really fast, probably not be as fast late. So being able to keep up with your car, maintain your emotions, everybody doing a good job for these long races is very difficult.
Steve, we just heard Martin Truex Jr. singing the praises of his crew and how they were able to bounce back from a bad finish a week ago to win here. Kevin Harvick on the other side was leading the race when they had problems on their pit stops.
And unfortunately for Kevin Harvick and this Ford team, this isn't new this year. He's been very vocal about struggling on pit road. And tonight with one of the best cars, we don't know if it cost him the race. Maybe Martin Truex Jr. could have came back and passed him. We saw trouble on the right front on one pit stop. This is trouble on the rear on another pit stop. They had to make an air gun change. Just too many mistakes at too difficult of a race for Kevin Harvick to overcome. You see right here, just too many spots, -4, -11, while they rebounded later in the race. Those two poor stops in the middle, stages of this race really cost Kevin Harvick the track position he needed so much.
And Marty Snyder caught up with Kevin just moments ago.
Well, there's no questioning how hard Kevin Harvick drove, but how much in the forefront of your mind were the issues on pit road tonight, Kevin?
Same old thing. You get in a position where you bring a dominant car. The guys in the shop and the guys in the garage are doing a great job, and the guys on pit road are doing a terrible job. You get in a position to win races, and they continually step on their toes and don't make it happen, and you're not going to win races like that. So I'm really proud of the car that we brought tonight and the things that we've done on the racetrack, but you can only make so many excuses for pit road.
I'm sure this will be a conversation this week, but how do you get it cleaned up in the next week before the chase starts?
That's a good question for Rodney and Greg.
All right, but tell me about the final restart. Did you think you could get Martin, though? Because it looked like you were catching him for a little bit there.
It's just, he had a good car. I had a good car. I'd hit the wall a little bit there the run before, and, we had control of the race and just absolutely pile driving them all night and then just gave it away.
Terrific effort for Kevin Harvick, but obviously frustrated with how things went on pit road tonight. He winds up finishing second.
Yeah, difficult, Marty, for Kevin Harvick, who said we had a dominant car. And I mean, if you're going to point fingers, you've got to look at the situation that he was in. He had a dominant car, was leading the race, and on pit road they had issues.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with those comments because I feel they were factual. I don't think he was animated. I don't think he made them up. I think he painted a very clear picture that the 4 car has had dominant cars. 23 times he has finished second since joining Stewart-Haas Racing. And for the 4 team to be a championship contender, for Kevin Harvick to go to Homestead thinking he can win a championship, they must perform top to bottom. He mentions the guys at the shop and the cars they prepare, the mechanics on the road, mechanically sound cars entering the race. Pit stops are not easy. I don't want to make it sound like anyone can go do them. They're very difficult, but so isn't driving. So isn't setting a race car up. So isn't every facet of the race team. And right now, the pit crew seems to be the weakness on this 4 car.
You just don't have that many opportunities in your career to have dominant cars. When you have those dominant cars, you have to take advantage of them, especially in the Southern 500. These big races, you mentioned it, you're going to the chase. It's championship winning time starting next week. In my eyes, this week, Richmond, that gets it started. That gets the momentum going. So not only did you lose one of the biggest races of the year, you also go into the chase without the momentum you want.
Did this race even happen for these bubble drivers?
Oh, it happened because Jamie McMurray is now on the hot seat. Ryan Newman only has to gain 7 points. Jeff, we have both had to do this. How is Richmond and the upcoming weekend going to be for those 4 drivers?
It's terrible. Listen. Ryan Newman cut that lead of Jamie Murray's at about half. That's what he did. So now, all week long, Friday night before the Richmond race, I don't care what they're saying. They're all nervous because you have worked the entire year to get to this point, and now you're going to go to Richmond. One race, one mistake, one bad pit stop, get into the wall, and you're out of the championship battle.
Every point is a position on the racetrack. It's time now for the NASCAR America post-race show with Chris Devoda, Dale Jarrett, and Kyle Petty.
Thank you, Rick. Yes, NASCAR's throwback weekend did not disappoint, especially for that man, Martin Truex Jr. 66 years to the day of the first Southern 500. It's Martin Truex Jr. who wins the 56th event. We are just a stone's throw from Victory Lane, where Martin Truex is celebrating. He will come join us in just a bit. But yeah, throwback weekend, as you can see, continuing for us. And Kyle, I want to talk about something you mentioned in the pre-race show. You talked about this track, this facility, brings about the greats and the ghosts.
Yes.
Martin Truex has certainly been haunted by some of the ghosts this year
has.
with trouble in 19 of 24 races. Today, I think it's safe to say he adds his name to some of the greats, winning 2 of the crown jewels this season.
Most definitely, and we talked about it in pre-race. You have to race the other 40 drivers, and you have to race the racetrack. Martin Truex did that to perfection the last 12 laps of the race. All he had was the lady in black laid out in front of him. He had to run, hit his marks, and do what he needed to do, and not worry about anything behind him. And if you watch those last 10 laps of the race, that's exactly what he did. He was racing the ghost of Darlington, and he beat it tonight.
You know, we've stood here and talked a lot this year and last year about the times and the ones that this race team and this driver have let get away. The times that they've dominated, we've shown all the stats of the laps led, not going to victory lane then. But this isn't time, and I think when you really show what a championship driver and team are really made of, they didn't have the best car. Martin said that. They had a really good race car, but the driver dug down, did what he had to do, and 11.2 pit stop on the last stop. That's the pit crew getting the job done at the time you need them to do it. That's a championship caliber team ready to go take on this chase in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and something that Martin said to Dave Burns, he said, if that's what it takes to win here, to win the Southern 500, to go through that sort of adversity, then that's what I'll take it, because it means that I'm standing here in Victory Lane at Darlington. So we're going to talk obviously about, you point out the 11.2 pit stop that his team, and again, we're a stone's throw from Victory Lane. We're a stone's throw the other direction from his pit stall, where his pit crew, we saw them celebrating, high-fiving when they saw their driver come out of the pits first. We heard some strong words from Harvick. Let's talk about that, I guess, because you talked about Martin Truex did not have the dominant car. Harvick did.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to say this. I think so many times this year we've seen Kevin get out of a car, have a chance to win, and something goes wrong on pit road, slow pit stops, whatever, and we continue to say they're going to go back to the shop and they're going to get it right on Monday. You know what? I'm on Harvick's side on this one. They haven't got it right all year long. They've got to go do something. Rodney Childers, Richard Childers, those guys have got to go in there and figure out what's wrong with this team. You talk about the 78 car with an 11-second stop. That's what propelled them to victory lane. These 20-second stops that this team had, a couple of really bad stops, took them from being in victory lane to going home and scratching their heads. They've got to come up with something, and Kevin Harvick has continued to be verbal about it in the public. I know he's verbal back at the shop, but somebody's got to get up off their butt and fix this thing if these guys are going to contend for a championship.
Yeah, because you can't have things like this. If they make their way to the Final Four at Homestead, you can't have those type things happen and expect to win the championship. I don't care how great Kevin Harvick is and how good a car they have. You put yourself, there are a lot of other good drivers in cars that you're going to be competing with, so it has to be rectified. Just as Steve Letarte pointed out there, pit stops aren't easy. You know, it's hard to do, just like everything else in this business. But to be a champion and a championship team, you have to have all of those things working in the same direction. I don't have a problem with what Kevin Harvick said there. It was quite obvious why they didn't win this race or didn't have the opportunity at the end to be in control of the last restart and give himself a chance to win. So that's something they have to fix before this first round of 3 gets started in a couple of weeks at Chicago.
Yeah, and I misspoke a minute ago when I said Richard Childress. I meant Stewart-Haas Racing. But I think when you come back into this, you look at that organization and you've got Tony's team, you've got Danica's team, you've got Kurt Busch's team, you've got the resources there. They went down to the 10 pit and borrowed a gun from them. When you look at that, these guys have got to go back. They've got to sit down. They've got to discuss this, and they've got to say, we've got to have the best of the best. We are the best team here. The 4-car and Kevin Harvick is the best team that Stewart-Haas has. It's the best chance at winning a championship. When you have one shot that you feel like is your biggest bullet, you've got to put everything in that bullet and everything behind it. They've got to go back and prepare. They've got one more race, and then it's in the chase. Then there is no second chance. It's do or die. It's elimination, and these guys have got to be ready. And again, I defend Kevin Harvick until the cows come home. I don't care. And the Southern 500, he had this race won, and they gave it away on pit road.
Yeah, they went and got a pit gun from Danica Patrick's team, their teammate. But again, this is the pit crew, or back when Kevin won the championship, they took the pit crew from Tony Stewart's group. This was originally Tony Stewart's group, brought him over to Kevin Harvick. So we've seen changes happen. We've seen changes happen not just mid-season, mid-race when it counts. So we'll have to see what happens as we get ready for the chase. All smiles right now in victory lane. You know, if we tried to get to victory lane, I don't think we could because of the sea of people behind us. But soon, Martin Truex is going to make his way over here to join us. In the meantime, let's hear from some more drivers. Marty spoke with Kyle Larson.
What a couple of weeks for Kyle Larson to win at Michigan, 3rd here at Darlington. But were you thinking for a moment might be 2 in a row?
Yeah, you know, I was leading there for a while, and we were really good out front, especially for 15, 20 laps. Then I would get too loose, and I could see Truex catching me. But I knew we'd get some cautions, and if we could have just came out the leader on those pit stops, I think we'd had a good shot. But our stops were good there at the end. We were able to maintain. Those Gibbs guys are just really good at everything right now, and pit stops included. So all in all, great day for the Target team. It's nice to get contend for another win, 2 weeks in a row. So, things would have played out right. Yeah, we maybe could have got a second win, but to get a top 3, leading up to the chase like that is really important right now. So, happy about all the effort and looking forward to the next couple weeks.
You mentioned that momentum coming into the chase. What is your confidence level right now, Kyle?
My confidence is really high. Those chase tracks are really good for me. I enjoy going to most all of them. There's a couple in there that I'm not great at, but most of the tracks are mile and a halves, wore out surfaces that I really like. So I'm excited about it. Glad to be in the chase for once and go for a championship.
An impressive 3rd place for Kyle Larson here in the Southern 500.
Well, Denny Hamlin has now finished in the top 4 of the last 5 races here at Darlington. But at any point, Denny, did you think you would have the speed to match those Chevys up ahead of you?
I didn't think so. I thought, we really had in the long run we did. But, these short runs at the end, for sure, we need a little bit more speed. And that's something we ain't said all year, but definitely think, we're a little bit off a little bit. But I know we're preparing for the chase, and everyone at JGR is doing a great job. Happy for this whole Sport Clips team. This Camry was very fast all day, all weekend. Just need some long runs there at the end to contend.
I mentioned those stats of top 4 finishes. You also have had a win here. What is it about this place, do you think, that you've been able to tame the track too tough?
It's tough, but I think just, driving style, being able to adapt to different racing lines based off of how your car is handling. It's probably my strong suit here, but sure would like to have a little bit more wins. Top 5s, top 4s are great, but this team deserves to win more, and we're going to try to do that in the chase.
All right, thank you, Denny.
Thank you.
Of course, Denny opened the season with the Daytona 500 win. And check this out, because you see these drivers who have won what we call the crown jewels of NASCAR, the Daytona 500, the Coca-Cola 600. If this is throwback, I guess we call it the World 600, right?
That's right.
The Brickyard 400, the Southern 500, all Toyotas.
Shows they're strong. This is a group that with Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota, you throw the 78 car in that group. They've really worked hard to over probably the last 15 months to improve every facet that they could. Their bodies are better. They've spent a lot of time in wind tunnels. Underbody stuff that they do to these cars is huge. But I will say the biggest thing in my mind that has put them in the game to make them a team, or teams and drivers that could dominate at these biggest events are the engines. There's no time at any point over the last 15 months that they haven't had at least as good an engine as anyone else out there. And from a driver's standpoint, that makes your job a whole lot more simple when you can concentrate on other things and don't have to overdrive the car.
Yeah, most definitely. And I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, because Daytona, they were the class. We go to Charlotte. I've never seen a car at Charlotte like Martin Truex. I'm just going to say they were the class of the field. We go to Indy and we go back and you remember Kyle Busch's dominance up there. They did not dominate Darlington. This was not a dominant performance by the Toyota. Yes, they're in victory lane, but I've got to give it to Harvick. These guys, when I look at Harvick and those teams, they're getting stronger as we head into the chase. Yes, these guys have won the crown jewel, but are they poised to go into the chase and be as competitive? It's going to shake out on those mile-and-a-half racetracks, and we're going to see by the time we get to Chicago and some of that stuff where they're at in comparison to everybody else. But when you look at the big 4 races this year, Toyota is the king.
Yeah, I say 2 Chevrolets right now, though, that I look at and say they're with organizations, but the 2 Chevrolets that I see both have a 4 in them. One just has a 4 and the other one has a 2 behind it. Yes. And that's Kyle Larson and Kevin Harvick with the Chevrolet camp. And that's not taken away from Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus what they're capable of doing. But if you look at speed and the ability to run up front to dominate races like this here, that's the 2 drivers that you right now from the Chevrolet camp have to really look at. We know that the 2 and the 22 on the Ford side will be there. And so, those are the ones that we're looking at. But these Toyota drivers are going to be difficult. I know they've all been excited that the chase is getting closer so that they can bring back out some cars that they were accustomed to running a little bit earlier.
Yeah, most definitely. And here's Martin Truex. He's here.
Yeah, everyone.
He's showed up, so everybody's cheering behind. Come on in, man.
He's going to go ahead and get mic'd up
on.
so we can talk to him. And in the meantime, I didn't realize a bit of a rivalry maybe, brewing, because in Martin's last 3 wins, Kevin Harvick is the one who has finished second, dating back to Pocono in 2015, and of course Martin's 2 wins this year in 2016.
Holy.
I'm just trying to give you a second to breathe.
Yeah.
Kind of
Thank you. I need it.
Are you admiring our outfits? Is that what
I
you're
thought
doing?
you were admiring mine. I got a suit on.
You got a tie. We didn't have to wear ties
we didn't
today.
have to wear ties.
It's interesting, right?
Yes.
We see the celebration, Martin, and you have a knack, I guess we could say this year, if you're going to win races, you might as well win the big ones.
Yeah.
How does this compare? I mean, it's hard to compare, I guess, the Coca-Cola 600 to Darlington. Have you always had, I imagine, Darlington on your list? We saw you out there, even with the helmet on, kissing the start-finish line.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those racetracks. These guys know. I mean, they talked about it all week. They talked about it today before the race. This is Darlington. Everybody wants to win here. The guys we've seen, we rode around in the trucks with before the race. I rode with Jack Ingram talking about racing this place 20 years ago. Talking to Cale Yarborough before the race, just Darlington, man. It's everybody wants to win here. This has been one of my favorite tracks throughout my career. I've run well here. I've led a lot of laps, and it always seemed like something happened. And tonight we did everything right, and it's just an amazing feeling.
We talk about it all the time, and everybody talks about it. 40 competitors and the racetrack. Those last 12 laps, you were spot on, flawless. Did you even look in the mirror, or did you just hit your marks and race the racetrack?
I raced the track. I did look in the mirror on the straightaway just to make sure I had a good gap so I could run, 98, 99%, because 100% is treacherous here. You know what I mean? So There was times in the race where it was, right against the wall in 3 and 4, and you were, in the danger zone. And there was times where, you just made sure you were in the right position and to take care of your car to get to the end, because it's a long race. But at the end, I felt pretty good about what we had. We were holding a nice lead, and the car was the best it had been all night, so I was pretty comfortable.
Martin, there's a long list of reasons that I admire you, but your talent level is very obvious. You've proven that time after time. But the thing that I admire most, I believe, is last week you had a really good race car at Michigan. You come in for what would seem to be a normal 4-tire stop. A little problem with the pit stop, messed up the body some. You weren't as good, didn't have the finish that you wanted. But we never heard a word from you about that. You come here tonight, don't have the best car, but you've got a really good car. Your pit crew does 11.2 stop on the last one, gets you out front, and you get out of the race car praising them and the job that they do all the time. I really appreciate that about you, but they did an outstanding job and gave you that opportunity, right?
I wouldn't be here without them, that's for sure. And they caught a lot of heat this week, I know, from a lot of people, and they've done such a good job lately, throughout the summer, and we've just had crazy bad luck, and thing after thing happen. And you sit there and you watch TV and everybody's like, wow, 78 can't finish races, they're not doing anything right, they're fast, but that's all they got going. And you got to stick with your guys, and this is going to be such a confidence booster for them. I mean, they did such an awesome job tonight, and we wouldn't have won this race without those pit stops. So I don't know that I could have passed the 42. I thought at that point in the race he was better than us. It was going to take us getting in front of him somehow, and for them to do that all night, I'm so proud of them. They worked their guts out. They worked hard this week. They were motivated, and that's what we need going into the chase.
Okay. You can't do anything right. You can't finish races. You can't close. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding.
19 out of 24 races.
But here's my point.
Something has went wrong, right?
But here's my point. How do you stay up, and just rise above that week in and week out as a team? Not only you as a driver, but as a team, because there have been those moments.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it hasn't been easy for sure. I think, that's the biggest thing. I think that for me, it's easier because I've been through so much of this stuff in my career. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've lost rides. I've, had a lot of crazy, just bad stuff happen. I've watched my life partner get cancer. I mean, there's just so many things that have been worse than what this season has been, and it's been really easy to see the positives in each and every single weekend that we're running up front. We're leading the most laps. I mean, if we're not the fastest car, we're one of them every single weekend, and I'm just I'm enjoying that. It's the best position I've ever been in my career. I've worked my whole life to get to this point, and so I'm not going to lose sight of it. And it doesn't really matter until the chase starts anyway. So like I said, this is a perfect time for us to hit on all cylinders, for those guys to get that confidence back, and we're ready to go get them.
Well, let's talk about the chase. Now, the experience that you had racing for a championship, do you feel like your team is better prepared and in a better position now to try to win you your first Sprint Cup championship?
Without a doubt. I mean, just having that that confidence and just having that familiar feeling and knowing you're going to have a lot of pressure on you, and you got to know how to deal with it. I think we did a great job last year of just flying below the radar, and really people had us counted out before it ever started, and we just kept creeping through that thing and making our way on to Homestead. And it was unfortunate that we went to Homestead and we weren't really a contender, but this year I think that'll be different, and if we can get back there with the speed that we have in our Toyotas, I think we're going to be a legitimate contender. And it's not going to be easy to get there, but I think we're up for the challenge, and I think we're better as a team in every single area right now than we were last year.
I'm going to mention a few names dating back to the late 60s. Allison, Pearson, Yarborough. We're going to show you a graphic here. Johnson, Gordon, guys that have won the 600, the Coca-Cola 600, and the Southern 500 in the same year. How special is that to see Martin Truex Jr. at the top of that list?
It's unbelievable. I mean, I never thought I'd see it, honestly. I mean, and there's a couple years ago I never even knew if I'd race on a competitive, drive a competitive car again or have a chance to win races. So to list is it's just amazing, and there's so many people I got to thank, obviously. Barney Visser's put so much into this race team and believed in me the last couple of years. And, when I first came to this team, we were awful. We ran horrible, and we couldn't do anything right, and we kept working. Cole Pearn has been a big part of the turnaround, obviously, and, it's just been a lot of fun. So I'm enjoying the moment. We're hungry. We're working hard. This is just the beginning for us, I think.
Well, I know we enjoyed watching your crew celebrate because your pit stop was just
there,
over
man.
our shoulder.
It was perfect
on that last pit stop. But we know Sherry is celebrating too. And you mentioned battling from ovarian cancer. September is Ovarian Cancer and Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. You, along with 19 other competitors tonight, had the teal and gold steering wheels.
Yes.
I know winning here means a lot because it's a Southern 500, but gripping that steering wheel means a lot too because of the month on the calendar.
Yeah, it means a ton. It was that's really special for us. It's really awesome that so many of the other competitors were willing to do that for us and to run those steering wheels. We're going to auction them all off and donate them to the foundation. So it's definitely awesome that all those guys were willing to do that. And our foundation has been just such a big part of what we do. And it's with what Sherry's been through and the ovarian cancer side of it, raising awareness, she's working so hard at doing that. She was in Washington, D.C. just a few weeks ago. She was in New York City this week ringing the bell at the NASDAQ, kicking off Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. So she's working hard to help other women, and just proud to be a part of that, and proud of what our foundation does for children as well.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people out there touched by it, rooting for you because of that.
Come on
yeah,
over.
you can come on in,
Come on in, Sherry.
Come on in.
Come on.
It was her idea to do the wheels too, so imagine
Great
that.
idea. Awesome. The congratulations goes to you
Historic
too.
day. Yes, congratulations.
It's a celebration for your entire team,
Yes.
both of you. Don't you make me cry?
Yes.
Don't you do it? Don't I can't.
Because we'll all
you.
start
Don't you
crying.
make me cry.
Dressed like this, we're all going to start
So
crying.
you're kind of wearing teal too. So
I am. I'm keeping it real with teal
Right.
in the month of September.
Yes.
Absolutely. So congratulations to you guys, a winner in the Southern 500.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely
Thank you very
fantastic.
much. Appreciate it.
And we thank all of you for watching our Southern 500 coverage. Don't forget, coming up next on NBC, except on the West Coast, your local news. Our coverage continues on NBCSN with Victory Lap. Thanks for watching.